Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Wednesday night, 4-Star Chicago Sports, the Belly There podcast. And I guess tonight we're going to talk Dillon Thieneman expectations. Can he meet that first round? What are your expectations? What are our expectations? We're going to talk about it just a little bit. All-time secondaries. And then, if you stick around long enough, maybe we'll give you a key to winning your fantasy football league at the end of the show. So stick around. Have a good evening with us. Let's hang out and talk some Bears football right after this.
Windy City banners rocking 4 stars align. Dynasty dreams rise, Bulls in their prime. Cubs curse shattered, the victory divine. Fields be running, clock ticking on my timeline. Shot-town heroes, legends never fade. Black Hawks flying, cutting ice with the blade. White Sox diamonds, the South Side parade. 4 stars shine bright, legacies they made. Mike with the crown, air rain, no dispute. Sweetness in the backfield, Walter in pursuit. Bear down Sunday's midfield, battles cute. Chicago.
Well, hello again, everybody. How we doing on this fine, scorching hot Wednesday?
I'm starting a mini vacation, dude, so I am golden. Going to drink as soon as this show is over.
Yeah, I'm not in my garage. I'm doing great, man. It's by like
dude, my garage has got to be 185 degrees right now, dude. I don't know how you are, Sean.
It's 85 in here, but I have a fan right there and a tank top.
You have Ace Man? What's their name? Oh,
What's that?
that was a bad dad joke. I said A fan. What's their name?
Oh, yeah. It's a little crazy. It's a little hot in here, but looks like it's gonna break on Tuesday, and Tuesday's high is gonna be 78. So only a couple more days to get through this shit. One more Cubs show, and I can get past all this hotness in this garage.
What's up, Dante? What's up, Bruce? Thanks for joining the show.
What's going on, everybody?
Appreciate you, Dante, man. He's the man. Dante's the man, dude. He's always here.
Dante is the man.
Dante
He's also is he the one who gave us John A. Walker last year?
I believe that was Dante. Yes.
Yeah. Who you got this year? Do we got to wait for the practice squads to get going, Dante, to get your expert analysis? Well, since we're talking expectations and we put Mark Carrier up there, the highest, Kyle, drafted safety by the Chicago Bears ever. Dillon Thieneman being the second ever safety drafted in the first round by the Chicago Bears. For me, the excitement's there because I did a draft profile on him a little bit. Right, he was the first draft profile I did when this draft started. I put him down as a free safety, cover one center fielder, kind of a hybrid player. I wrote that he was one of the most smartest, most instinctive players in this draft. Defensive back in this draft, plays with high IQ, plays fast. He processes fast, brings legitimate range, strong ball production, confidence in his game, and you can see that. And when you talk to some of his teammates, you can see that he's bringing that confidence and swagger he had in college onto at OTAs. And obviously we're going to see here in less than a month what he's going to do once this thing really picks up. But I'm pretty excited. I've been saying this in Kyle J Mondays, Wednesdays. I think we've been talking about this just a little bit. We think this defense may not be the best in the world, but it's definitely improved. And I think one of those keys is Dillon Thieneman. And I said this about a month ago. I think it was with you, Dustin, and Brandon when we were talking about him. I said I expect it to be a slow progression. Safety is a very hard position to learn and adapt to in the NFL. I expect him to start slow, maybe weeks 1 through 4, but I think, weeks 4 through the rest of the season, after he gets burned, makes a couple of mistakes, gets some tape to look at, that high IQ will kick in, and those mistakes will start to go away, and we'll start seeing that player that we drafted in the first round. I don't know where you guys are at with Dillon Thieneman, but I love the pick. I think he's going to bring a lot to the table for the Bears and be a difference maker personally. I do. It's just it may not be right off the bat, and if it's not, I just don't ever want to freak out because that's what happens with secondary players. We're going to talk about one secondary in a little bit, the 2018 Bears. You remember when Kyle Fuller got drafted, we've mentioned this before too. He was a bust. He sucked. He couldn't cover anybody. He was terrible. Then a guy became a 4-time Pro Bowler on the Chicago Bears, and everybody loved him. It's a tough position. Safety, corner, secondaries in the NFL.
First team All Pro too.
Yeah, first. That's what I'm saying. It takes time. It takes time. So just be patient with them, and we'll see. But where are you guys at?
I was looking at their stats. You can't compare, obviously pro stats yet because Thieneman hasn't even played a game yet. I loved Mark Carrier, and I don't know how you can't love Mark Carrier, but I wanted to look at their college stats. Carrier had slightly better. I think he had like 13 interceptions. Thieneman had 10, I want to say. I think I got it pulled up here. Yeah, 10 interceptions. He had 2 sacks. 10 tackles for loss and 8 interceptions. And then if you go to Mark Carrier, he had 336 tackles in 3 years, 13 interceptions, 27 pass breakups, 4 fumble recoveries, all at the 3 years that he was in USC. And I think Thieneman played a full 4 years, or did he play 3? No, he played 3. 2 at Purdue, 1 at Oregon. So, look, if he could be a Mark Carrier or better, like let's say his floor is Mark Carrier, we're going to be just fine. I think you're correct, and it will take him a few weeks to get into, the rhythm of things. But let's be honest, he's got a defensive coordinator that was a DB's coach who loves his DBs, right? I think that's why they got who they got. You'd love to see a little bit more depth there. And then he's got Al Harris, probably one of the best, if not the best DBs coach in the league right now. So I think it's a great situation for him. And at least getting 1 year out of Al Harris and maybe a couple out of DA here, that could really start his career off in the right direction. So when inevitably the coordinators and the coaches change on the defensive side of the ball, he's already got a good head start, and whoever they pick, he's going to be a good fit for. So I don't know what you're thinking, but you got to assume he's going to be good, but you just, I guess, never know, right?
Yeah, I'm going to give you a hot take, man. And the reason I am is because, we've been talking about Dillon Thieneman, and obviously people are like, I don't know why we talk about Dillon Thieneman again. But I honestly believe, guys, that if his career goes the way that a lot of people, the general consensus, believe it's going to go, if he ends up being one of the best safeties in this draft, I think he's going to be one of the best Bears safeties of all time. And there's a reason for that. Listen, we have the Bears, if you look back since Mark Carrier, basically, the Bears have had their fair share of average to above average, even good, really good safeties. But most of the guys that we talk about won't be remembered as Bears, right? Like even you talk about Eddie Jackson. Like he was great for the Bears, but he was here for a very short period of time, 4 years. Look at Kevin Byard, probably one of the best safeties ever played for the Bears, but he's here for 3 years. I mean, these guys probably aren't going to, if they got accepted in the Hall of Fame, they're not going to be accepted as Bears. It's like Kevin Byard would be a Titan, or maybe depending on how long he plays for the Patriots, but they're not really necessarily Bears safeties. Go back to Mike Brown, probably the best safety of my lifetime, personally, at least the span in which I've been watching the Chicago Bears. But he had his ups and downs. He dealt with way too many injuries. When he was on the field, he was great, but he couldn't stay in the field. When you go back, just safeties. So you go back and look at the Bears safeties. Dillon Thieneman is primed to be one of the best safeties of Chicago Bears history. I mean, he is absolutely set up for him to be, because really, honestly, guys, for a team that's been notoriously known for their defense and in its historic history, really haven't had like that many Hall of Fame type safeties in Chicago. And like I said, even the guys that did, they're not really going to be remembered as Chicago Bears. And the more I watch the tape, which I did a ton of yesterday and today, the more he impresses me, man. And I know you can talk about the stats all day. Obviously, he had really good stats at both Purdue and Oregon. But what really surprised me, man, was, and people are like, oh, I don't listen to PFF. I don't care. Well, fine. Then go use any website you want that was rating or ranking or grading Dillon Thieneman throughout college. And they all had him as the first or second best safety in this class. And PFF, man, I mean, look at these numbers. And I don't want to I don't get monotonous here and read off a bunch of numbers, but this shit is impressive. His overall grade in 2023. So this is his first year at Purdue. So it would have been his freshman season. 89.5 ranked him 8th out of 876 safeties overall. Coverage grade, 83.5, 55th out of 876 safeties. Remember, guys, this is a freshman. Pass rush grade, 79.9, 57th out of 876 safeties. And then run defense grade in his first year, 2023. And this is when he did play more that box role, but not always, but he did play more of it than normally does. Run defense, 90.2, 8th out of all of 876 safeties. I mean, that's amazing. All in the top, 60 rankings of 876 guys. Then he had a little bit of a dip in 2024, which is to be expected, because I think that's when they started pushing him more into like that, like Sean, you said, free range safety, free safety. Then you go back to 2025 at Oregon, where they used him basically in every way they possibly could. He was all over the field. He was that multi-role guy. Once again, 89.7, 10th out of 915 qualifying safeties. Coverage grade, 9th out of 915 qualified safeties. Pass rush grade, 47th out of 915 qualified safeties. And then his run defense went down, obviously, because he played the more of that free range safety. He was 443rd out of 915. But for the most part, consistently, this guy has been one of the highest rated safeties all of anybody in college football over the last 3 seasons by PFF. Go to DraftBuzz. It's the same thing. It's the tackling 91, coverage grade 93, zone 89, man/press 92, and on top
pick
of that,
up that guy in Madden, right? If he was available.
No, yeah, man. And on top of all that, man, he's just the football instinct when you watch him. There's just so much. Everything, all his best plays are all instinctive. He's just very smart. And I believe he's one of those guys, man. Me personally, I think that Dillon Thieneman is one of those guys who eats, sleeps, and breathes football. I think that's honestly at this point in his life all he cares about. I think all he cares about is being great and being the best all time. And I think with his skill set, with Jason, like you just mentioned, the coaching staff that here, the guys that are going to be teaching him, the guys he's going to be learning from, even the guy he's playing next to him, Kobe Bryant. With all of that at his disposal, and you look at the tools, you look at the athletic makeup, I think there's a good chance that by the time Dillon Thieneman leaves the Bears or retires a Bear, because I think he will probably get a second-year contract. Remember, guys, he's first-round picks, so you're automatically getting him for 5 years if you pick up the 5th-year option. But if he does get a second contract and say he's here for 8, 9, 10 years, I think Dillon Thieneman is going to be involved and going to be in the top 3 Chicago Bears safety all-time conversation. I don't think it's that far of a reach. I really don't. People are like, well, how can you possibly say that? This guy's even played a football game in the NFL yet. Like I said when I started this, if all goes according to the way they expect, like the general consensus, this guy's going to be one of the best safeties in the NFL. If all goes to plan, I think by default he's going to be one of the best Bears safeties ever to play for the Chicago Bears. Do you disagree? Do you guys disagree?
No, I certainly pray that he is. You know, look, if he's the top 5 safety in the league, you know, in 3 years, that's a win. You know what I mean? That's
probably one of the best Bears safeties ever.
Right. And we don't need to have the number 1 player on at every position because it's not going to happen, right? The downside is to drafting all these really good young players is I don't know how we're going to be able to pay for them all in 5 years, but I mean, it's great to see that we're actually having good drafts. I know it's a little bit too early to grade this year's draft class, but for all intent and purpose, last year's draft class was great. And this one looks like it was going to be pretty damn good too. Leading the way with Dillon Thieneman. Man, if he could be with the Bears for 10 years, I think that's great. It gives us a stability there that we haven't had in a long time.
Yeah, and you got to pick your cornerstones, right? Some of these guys are going to be released and they're not going to get second contracts. Some of these guys are going to be here for a long time. If all goes according to plan, best case scenario, he is our Harrison Smith, right? He's your guy. He's like that's the anchor of the secondary in the Chicago for the next 10 years. And then you got to pick the guy in your defensive line. You got to pick your linebacker. But just because they drafted him and he's going to be a homegrown talent and he was a first-round pick and they're going to develop him and they just love his skill set. And obviously, he's one of the most versatile safeties in the NFL. There's a very good chance I think he's going to be that Harrison Smith for the Chicago Bears, and he's going to, if he made the Hall of Fame, it would be as Chicago Bears. So, like I said, by default, just based on the fact that Eddie Jackson only played a handful of seasons here, Kevin Byard only played 3 seasons here, Mike Brown had so many injuries, I think this guy is going to sneak in the best Bears safety all-time conversation, unless he's just an absolute bust, which I don't see happening. He's just been too good to think otherwise.
Well, I will say this. It's going to take a lot for him to pass the best safety in Bears all-time history. He's got a mountain to climb and he's going to have to be here a while. He's going to maybe a couple less years because number 26 on the Bears all-time top 100 is Gary Fensick, who is 3rd all-time in tackles in Chicago Bears history, still holds the franchise record for most interceptions in Chicago Bears history, is a multi-time Pro Bowler.
How many years?
He was with the Bears for 12 seasons.
Yeah, so
I think he played his whole career.
He played 488 games as
and that's why I said top 5, because there's a good chance Dillon Thieneman's probably not here for 12. First of all, NFL careers are not lasting as long as they used to.
Right. Well, safeties. Look at Harrison Smith. What is he on? Year 954.
Yeah, I think he has 18 seasons in the NFL.
Yeah, he's
16 or 18.
Dude. Did he retire or is he still playing?
I think he is still still available as a free agent, and I think he's still trying to find a job somewhere. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think he announced a retirement. Actually,
I'd take him. Bring him in.
I heard there was rumors that he might end up back in Minnesota. But Jason, I was actually thinking about that earlier today when I was thinking about the comparison to Harrison Smith. The Bears don't really have a backup safety. I would ask Harrison Smith what he wants. They'd be like, hey, how much are you looking for? Like,
and if it's reasonable, take him. We just signed like 2 special teamers. One like a 3-year, $3 million contract. Another guy for like a $1 million. Give him like $3 or $4 million. What if he really wants to play? If nobody's going to pick him up, and look, the guy's brain at least is worth that money. You gotta think, right? I mean, for his experience,
you talk about somebody.
Maybe help pick apart Minnesota's defense for us,
or somebody who could help Dillon Thieneman. I think Harrison Smith would be great.
Exactly. Yeah.
But Slimbo Boogie says Eddie Jackson exactly 100 games played with the Chicago Bears. Yeah, and you know what? Eddie Jackson would have been one of those guys who I wanted to be a lifetime Bear if he hadn't started making big business decisions after he got paid. The guy just became a completely different player, and then he started making an ass of himself on social media, saying he's a better tackler than Lance Briggs and all this other stuff. Like, dude. It was time for the Bears got rid of Eddie Jackson at the perfect time.
We got our usage out of him, and he's gone.
It was time for him to go. I've never seen a fall off like that in my entire life, guys. Eddie Jackson was his first 3 seasons here was amazing, dude. Amazing.
Yeah, because remember, was that a Poles draft? Because it wasn't the same year as him and Jalen, right?
No, it wasn't a Poles draft.
Him and Kyler.
No, because Kyler was his first draft.
Quick correction. I just said 488 games with the Bears. Fensick played 164 games with the Bears. Sorry about that. I caught myself saying that.
No, you said 12.
I caught myself saying that. I'm like, wait.
Well, you said 12. Right. You said 12 seasons. They could do that.
12 seasons, 164 games as a Chicago Bear. So that's probably doable for Dillon Thieneman if he stays there, especially because Fensick was playing in the 16-game schedule.
Yeah, you get the extra game, sure.
Yeah. So.
And you never know. You play really, really well. Those stats, can pile up pretty quick.
And the 488 was 488 interception yards that he recorded in his career. Gary Fensick. Gary Fensick was a stud, one of the best to do it in the secondary ever, in my opinion.
Well, him and Singletary used to go through helmets like every game, dude. Like in the middle of the game, like cracked helmets. I need a new one.
Well, Dillon Thieneman's just in a very particular situation when it comes to being a Chicago Bear because, guys, let's face it, in the last maybe year and a half, basically since Ben Johnson was hired, all Bears fans talk about and think about is offense. Caleb Williams, Luther Burden, Colston Loveland, Rome Dunze, Ben Johnson. And then when you get to the defensive side of the ball, they don't really have that many high draft picks here. Think about it. Go through the Bears' entire defensive roster. There's not. Montez Sweat, I believe, was a first-round pick. Correct? He was a first-round pick, right?
I would imagine.
Yeah, I think so. I think towards the tail end.
Yeah, but outside of that, it's not like the Bears have a ton of first-round picks all over the field on defense. Jalen Johnson was a second. Kyler Gordon was a second. Dillon Thieneman is set up to be the star of the show. He should be the best Chicago Bear on defense. He's a first-round pick.
Montez Sweat was 26 overall.
So right there with Thieneman. Right there with it. So Thieneman right now, I believe, is the highest drafted Bears defensive player, correct?
Yeah, on the defensive side, yeah.
Yeah. He is the highest drafted Bear on defense.
When was Kyler Gordon drafted? Wasn't he first round?
He was second round. The Bears didn't have a first round pick.
Yeah, I was going to say that year they didn't have one.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know when Devin Bush was drafted. I don't know when.
I think Devin Bush is a first rounder as well.
He is? All right. So Dante, you're
I might be wrong.
Thanks, Dante. And then I don't know when Kobe Bryant was drafted.
He was the 10th overall pick, Devin Bush.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought Devin Bush was pretty high.
And when was Dante? Do you know when Kobe Bryant was drafted?
In the NBA? I don't know.
I wish. I wish we had Kobe Bryant.
Just no helicopter rides. We'll be all right.
Kobe Bryant. I don't know. I can look it up, but Dillon Thieneman. Either way, Dillon Thieneman is primed to be. He should be one of the Chicago Bears.
Fourth round, Kobe Bryant, 109th overall pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. He's a Cincinnati Bearcat.
So, Dillon Thieneman should be primed to be a fan favorite, guys. This is a guy who we spent a ton of draft. A first round pick is so valuable in the NFL right now. It's a ton of draft capital spent on the safety position. If this guy comes out and absolutely whoops ass, I think there's going to be a lot of Dillon Thieneman jerseys being sold in Chicago.
I do think Slim. I think Devin's going to get there, man. He's right at that age where he keeps ascending and he keeps getting better every single season. And if you go over his stats, for his career over the past couple of years, he just continues to evolve into that player. And I think that the Bears got him, right at the right time, coming off 100 tackles last year, just under the year before. And if you just look at it, he just gets better and better and better. And I think the Bears got Devin Bush right at the right time, right when he's about to take off and be a multiple-time Pro Bowler.
Well, Dennis Allen brought him here for a reason, right? He's like, if Dennis Allen probably believes that this is was the guy available in free agency who best fit his scheme. So you would think technically this is probably the best scheme for Devin Bush as well, because obviously Dennis Allen wanted him badly. He's going to be put in a prime position to have his best season as a professional. And with this defense, with the way Dennis Allen runs things, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he becomes his what was the guy's name in New Orleans forever that Dennis Allen absolutely loved, the linebacker. I don't know why I'm drawing so many blanks today. Chat, keep on helping me out here, man. Long day, guys, in the 98-degree weather for 9 hours today.
Gotta love it.
Who the guy, Sean? Who's the linebacker in New Orleans? He's now a NFL analyst. He's a play-by-play guy.
Oh God.
Everybody knows that. You know what I'm talking about. It's just the name won't come to me. Jonathan Vilma, right?
Vilma, yeah.
Jonathan Vilma?
Yeah, so maybe Devin Bush is primed to become Dennis Allen's next Jonathan Vilma.
Chicago is the land of Caleb's. It certainly is right now. And God, we were talking about that the Cubs need one. The Cubs got Caleb Wing. We just got to get him out of the minors and on the professional roster. That'd be 3 out of 4 teams.
Yeah, but Sean, I think the other 2 are stars. Yeah, James, we talked a lot. James, go back and watch the beginning of the Monday show if you get the chance. Sean and I had Caleb. I think Sean, you had him 6th. I had him 7th. But I mean, the fact that the fact that ESPN put him in their top 10 position rankings is amazing, because I don't think the Bears have ever had a quarterback even get close to sniffing the top 10 of any list anywhere. So the fact that, like we just talked about it, we were talking about it in the green room, guys, people are starting to take notice when it comes to Chicago sports. I mean, you have PCA in the All-Star game talking about the Chicago Bears while Miguel Vargas is smashing a double-decker home run over his head. Like, Chicago is coming.
Dude, Colin Cowherd, Caleb Williams, the 3rd best quarterback.
What was that?
Colin Cowherd ranked Caleb Williams the 3rd best quarterback.
Well, if you're talking about potential, yeah, I mean,
that's basically what he was talking about. Yeah,
if he continues to get better at the little things, but still looks Patrick Mahomes-esque at times, yeah, Caleb certainly. I mean, he's going to be special, man. He's going to be generational type talent. There's a very good chance by the end of Caleb's career, when you look at that same list, the guys who were on it, you talk about Drake May, you talk about Patrick Mahomes, you talk about Josh Allen. There's a very good chance he's in the top 5. If they redid that list in 10 years, very good chance he's in the top 5. Caleb's special, man. He is. He's just special. And you guys, the NFL knows it. They put him on the Madden cover. They put him in 6 primetime games, but I consider it 7, because I think Christmas and Thanksgiving are primetime games. I consider it 7 primetime games. I mean, the NFL wants the world to see Caleb Williams, and there's a reason for that. It's not because he sucks.
I'll say that even though that Christmas, I think they do consider Christmas a primetime game, even though it's noon.
Yeah, but so technically they have 7 games that will be watched nationwide that are on the only game on that at that time, right?
Yeah.
I think they have 7, correct? Yeah.
It's pretty badass.
That's good. Hopefully that reintroduces America to the
I'll
Bears.
tell you what, you guys, the football fans who watch all football, not just their team, but watch all football, are going to see a lot of Caleb Williams, in 2026, 2027, a lot. Because he's probably going to be the playoffs as well, you assume, right? So you got 7 primetime games, and then all the playoff games are basically primetime games. So the rest of the world is probably going to see 9, 10 Caleb Williams games this year, if we're lucky, 11, whatever it would be.
Now let's just pray for no injuries.
Yeah,
just pray for no injuries
across the board.
Yeah, 100%. That's kind of where everything can go wrong.
Yeah, I don't disagree, James. I think that here's the problem. Sean and I talked about this a lot on Monday. I don't know if they're basing it solely off what happened last year, solely off projections, off a combination of the two. I don't really know, but I think Caleb Williams is a top 5 QB in a lot of people's lists. And real quick, Slimbo Boogie, thanks for being here, man. James, thanks for being here. Dante, Profits in the house. Bruce, like we said earlier.
All the usual suspects.
Yeah, James, everybody, appreciate Profit. Appreciate you guys being here, man. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you guys keeping us afloat during the dead time.
I know, right?
Yeah. Yeah, James says there's a reason Bears are getting so many primetime games, and it's that reason is Caleb Williams. 100%, man. 100%.
I think it is Caleb Williams, but I think Ben Johnson has something to do with it as well.
Yeah, sure.
You know,
well, and just the excitement. How exciting the Bears were last year. It's just it was must see TV. Every game was must see TV.
By the end of the season, you're watching games and you're like, they're down. And you're like, I don't know if we're going to lose this game. Don't give Caleb the ball in the fourth quarter.
You guys, I got real cocky towards the end of the season. I'm like, they're not going to lose this game. They're down by 10, 4 minutes left. I'm like, the Bears got them right where they want them.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dante. I appreciate that, dude.
I hate to say that, man, but it's Chicago, and when Chicago's good, sports is just better. And I'm not saying that because I'm a Chicago sports fan, but even when the Cubs are down, when you go to Vegas at the beginning of the year, they're one of the favorites to win it all every year. People want Chicago to be well, and the Bears are a draw, 110%. And look, Caleb Williams is an added draw. It wouldn't matter if Caleb Williams was the quarterback or not of the Chicago Bears. If the Bears are good, the Bears are a national draw. People want to see this franchise, plain and simple. Caleb adds to the excitement of the Bears. Ben Johnson adds to it, so there's added things. But when Nagy was patrolling the sidelines, the Bears had 7 primetime games after 2018. They want to see the Bears, and they want Chicago to be good because we're a major market and we're a draw. We draw it. Look what the Bears did with the Packers in the last 2 games. 65 million people over 2 football games at the end of the season. People want to see us. They want to see.
It's going to be bigger this year, Sean. I bet those 100%. Games are going to be 20, 30% more.
Well, Sean, you heard PCA say it in the outfield. The Bears being good is good for the NFL. And you guys, I sent you guys the clip, right? I'm sure you guys in the chat have seen it already on Instagram that there's a Bears writer talking to some Vegas experts, basically a bookie, right? You guys saw the video I showed you.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, guess what team has the most tickets to win the Super Bowl? The Chicago Bears. Guess what team has the most tickets to win their division? The Chicago Bears. Guess what player has the most tickets sold right now to be NFL MVP? Caleb Williams. He's like, right now in Vegas, the Chicago Bears are dominating the news. Dominating the news. And
that could just be a bunch of Chicago homers that are like, oh, we're going all the way, which is great.
Sure, but at least we show up, right? We should show up, right? Like, don't you think Chiefs fans should be gambling on their team to win a Super Bowl? Don't you think Bills fans should be making bets on their team to win a Super Bowl? But we do.
Well, the Chiefs' biggest gambler, I think, went away for armed robbery, but that's different. You ever seen that documentary?
Yeah. The prophet says competence. Ben brought confidence or competence.
You were 100% correct.
100%, bro. It's a totally different. It's crazy. It's a totally different organization. Phil, what's going on, man? How you doing? Hope your hip's healing up right now.
How was that hip doing there, Philip? We running marathons yet, buddy?
Yeah, give us some updates, brother. Dante's giving you a shout out, Phil.
He wanted.
More importantly, Phil, does the wife say the hip is okay?
Yeah, 100%.
That's what's important.
100%, James. That's one of the big reasons why a lot of Chicago fans are betting on the Bears, because there's a lot of money here and people have money to play with. Oh man,
I always love how they call it a blue collar city too.
Phil's leaving us.
It is not.
Phil's leaving us. Yeah, Phil. I saw you mention on Monday you were moving, but I never saw you. It was Tennessee. Well,
oh really, Phil? What happened? Is this a job thing?
No, Tennessee. A lot of people are moving there to retire, dude. It's cheaper and it's honestly a nicer state to live in than Illinois. Well, if it wasn't for family and sports, I'd be gone too.
Illinois sucks.
Yeah, you guys. True says if our defense takes the next step, we can definitely win a championship. Agree with you 100%. Guys, Phil says we got a party before he goes. When are you moving, Phil?
Yeah, when are you moving, Phil?
Yeah, shoot me a text, Phil. Phil, you got my number. Shoot me a text, man. We'll all meet up and grab beer or something before you get out of here.
Yeah, 100%. You still got to listen to the show, man. You can't escape.
The internet is worldwide. It's the Wide Web.
He says he's probably moving in September. Yeah. Definitely shoot me a text, man. Slimbo Boogie says 2026 goal: get the #1 seed and dominate on the lakefront and head to the Super Bowl. Bears versus Broncos. After win it all, stay at Soldier Field. Give Arlington and Indiana the bird. Maybe
I'll
go
say
Arlington.
this. The Broncos. You know what? Bo Nix is drafted the same year as Caleb. I want Caleb to go to the Super Bowl and beat every quarterback that was drafted and beat Jaden Daniels to go to the Super Bowl, then beat Drake May or Bo Nix. Let's do it. Let him knock off every single one for every analyst that said these guys are better than Caleb Williams, because it's still happening today.
Well, I know all three of those quarterbacks have been injured. Caleb has not. There's been two fairly decent injuries for Bo Nix right now. Two significant injuries, I think, last year for
Jaden Daniels.
For Mr. Jaden Daniels. So we were talking about Jaden Daniels, man, about him facing adversity. Let's see how he comes back. He's got another new offensive coordinator. He's got nobody to throw the ball to, except for one guy I'll be talking about later. Look, their running game is not great, but it's not bad. I still don't think they could stop the run. I don't think, and he's like 30 years old already, dude. Jaden Daniels is not my top
I cannot believe that arm didn't snap. That is insane, dude. Yeah. I thought for sure that thing snapped. That is absolutely how flexible Jaden Daniels. Listen, the guy's skinny. He's going to get hurt a lot, but man, that he is a flexible dude, man. I thought for sure that arm snapped.
And I will tell you this, Bo Nix released a video of him chucking balls down the field. He's 100% cleared and ready for training camp, and that's good. I know there's still some people on Monday that were saying Bo Nix is ass. I think Bo Nix is a pretty damn good quarterback.
He's solid, yeah.
Yeah, he may not be a Hall of Famer, but he's got a great coach. He fell into a great situation, and I didn't put him on my sleeper list, but anybody who has Jalen Waddle on their team this year, you're welcome. I would draft them, buy stock in them. I'm telling you, I know, Kyle, you weren't on this boat, but you don't trade a first, a second, a fourth, and then pay big dollars to have Cortland Sutton and fucking little Jordan Humphreys and all these other idiots. They traded for him to make him the man, and he will be the man, and he's going to have an epic season in Denver. Mark my words.
No, they're a good team.
I didn't say he was going to suck. I just think his numbers will be very similar to where they've been in Mike McDaniel's Miami offense. That's what I think. But
I'll tell you what, Drake May is not going to have as good of a year. I think Seattle basically wrote the book on how to beat Drake May in the Super Bowl, and everybody watched that game. And I'll be honest with you, their schedule is going to get a lot tougher this year. So,
you put a gun to my head, man. I got Waddle at 1,150 yards, 7 touchdowns.
I'm going 1,400. I said 1,400 and probably 9 to 10 touchdowns. He's going to be the man in that offense this year. Waddle. And here, there's also history that goes. Look at DJ Moore the year after he was traded, 1,300 yards. The year after A.J. Brown was traded to Tennessee, 1,400 yards. There's another receiver that was traded. He's just following the trend, and I believe he's going to fall. I personally believe he's going to fall in there. We'll see what happens. We've got a long football.
The other receiver you're looking for is George Pickens.
George Pickens, thank you. Yes, George Pickens.
All right, well, let's talk about the secondary, boys, because you guys, astoundingly, listen, and I love the 2018 Bears defense. I love Vic Fangio. He might be one of my favorite Bears coaches of all time, although very small sample size. How PFF ranks the 2018 Chicago Bears secondary as the best all time is absolutely asinine. And once again, not to take away from the 2018 Chicago Bears, because if you guys remember correctly, that defense was really good. And I think that was a reason that the Bears offense looked really good in 2018. I think it's because the defense was giving them so many short fields. But just even if you look at the players individually, guys, there's no chance in hell. Right? Am I crazy?
I don't think it's the best Bears secondary ever. That's what's crazy about it. I think the 06 secondary, what was the 06 secondary was Charles Tillman, going to be in the Hall of Fame. Nathan Vasher, I loved. Chris Harris, love that dude. I think he's a coach now. And Daniel Manning. I think that was a better secondary.
I wasn't a huge Nathan Vasher fan. I mean, definitely comparable. Listen, I don't even know if they're necessarily saying like as a unit that's the best unit of all time. But they're saying if you took all their PFF grades and you averaged them out, it's the highest PFF grade of all time. But there's not a chance in hell. It's not a chance in hell. It's the best secondary of all time. And Sean, let's see your list because I know you did some research here.
I got a couple different lists. Where did I do with them? This is probably maybe more of a realistic list. and I might even probably had the 2000 Baltimore with Ed Reed and who was our stud they had on there. That 10 might even be a little bit low for them because that was one of the best defenses ever.
Was 91 Brian Dawkins?
91
Brian Dawkins, or did he come later?
Eric Allen, Andre Walters, and William Frizzell.
Yeah, so
was one of the greatest statistical defenses ever, ranking first against the pass, first against the run, and first in total defense.
Yeah, so like let's just go through lists. Like Jason, I'm gonna name out to you. You tell me if you'd have them higher or lower than the 2018 Chicago Bears, the 2000 Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, I think that 02 to 04 Ravens defense was redonkulous. The creators of the Tampa 2 that everybody plays right now. It was a really, really good secondary, and literally everybody copies that secondary now. So I don't know how they're not higher.
Well, then let's just put the list back up there. You guys basically you got them 10.
I got them 10, but I probably should have had them over the 18 Bears. I probably screwed that up a little bit.
You said the 2000 Buccaneers or the Ravens? I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying, Sean, do you guys both have the 2018 Chicago Bears secondary at 10 on this list? Like if you had to rank them yourselves, you personally put them at 10, I'm assuming. You put the Ravens in front of them.
I don't know if they make my top 10 because they're like I said, I don't even think they're the best Bears secondary of all time. So
here, if I put up my bias list, Kyle, this is kind of more how I feel because that 85 Bears secondary to me is, I know what the front seven was, but that secondary still, you had three dudes with 5+ interceptions in the secondary. They led the league in interceptions that year. And yeah, of course, the front seven helped. But when you look at Gary Fensick, Dave Durison, these guys, multiple time Pro Bowlers, Gary Fensick, probably one of the best to ever do it. I don't know that I can say that with the 2018 Bears.
Right. Well, let's get into it real quick, guys. Because I did some research here, so I just want to give the chat some perspective. This is what PFF had to say about the 2018 Chicago Bears secondary. Vic Fangio and the Bears defense staff had the hell of a defense. The Bears defense led the NFL in points allowed per game, fewest first downs, and fewest total rushing yards, and had the most interceptions in the league. The only difference is that the group felt like it underachieved since it did not win a playoff game. But for the sole reason the Bears defense was as dominant as it could be. According to Bradley Locker and PFF, the Bears graded out as a total overall 93.7 PFF grade for the secondary. If you like interceptions, you love the defense backfield of 2018 Chicago Bears. Between all pros, Eddie Jackson, Kyle Fuller, Prince Mukamura, Adrian Amos, and Bryce Callahan, this group snagged 20 interceptions, 3 of which returned for touchdowns. And then to say this unit was dangerous is an understatement. Not a weak link in the bunch. They also combined for 63 pass breakups. That is a lot. That's a ton of pass breakups. 4 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, and 1 more touchdown via fumble recovery, which belonged to Bo Jackson as well. These guys were having fun, and the entire league watched with bated breath. That stuff doesn't matter. Position group ranking 93.7, the highest single season secondary grade ever by PFF. All 7 secondary members who played 200+ snaps earned at least a 75.8 overall grade, at least. NFL standing or leading stats led the league in defensive EPA per play, fewest first downs allowed, and fewest total rushing yards allowed. That's an amazing stat, guys. That's an amazing stat.
It is, and I don't want to be like I don't know, what do you call it, the like pour salt on the party. But do we got to go look at that schedule and see, did they play like the Lions are playing this year, the weakest schedule in the league, so the defense looked better? Because when you say those names in the secondary, none of them I'm like, oh, dude, those guys were awesome.
They didn't have careers after the Bears.
Right, like Prince of Makamura, he was okay.
He
was the best of the bunch.
Sean, I agree. He was okay, but he was amazing that year. He was absolutely amazing. Prince Mukamura at times for 2018 was the Bears saving grade. So Eddie Jackson, you guys had a 94.7 PFF coverage grade. That is the best in the history of the NFL, according to PFF. 94.7 was the best in his first safety in the history of the NFL. He had 6 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, and a return touchdown. Kyle Fuller was a first-team All-Pro. He had 7 interceptions and 1 forced fumble. Prince Amukamara had 3 interceptions. Bryce Callahan at nickel. And guys, remember when Bryce Callahan, it was a very short stint here, but Bryce Callahan
he was
at nickel
good.
was amazing.
I like Bryce
Then he went to the Broncos, right, I believe. He had 2 interceptions that season. Adrian Amos, another underrated safety for the Chicago Bears, had 2 interceptions. And then Sherrick McManus, who was primarily a backup, had an interception. But I will say, listen, if you talk about them historically, you talk about the list you guys just put up there, because of how long some of those guys' careers were that we're talking about, like you talk about the Rondé Barbers, you talk about the Legion of Richard Sherman, probably not even comparable. But that if you're taking one season, you're just like one season. Forget about what happened before, forget about what happened after. How good Eddie Jackson was that year, how good Kyle Fuller was that year. And like I said, Prince Amukamara, that was not even a question, his best season he ever had in the NFL. He was amazing. 2018, absolutely amazing. And I think it's more just how Vic Fangio controlled them or ran his unit. I think
he had a really good defensive line there too. Akeem Hicks was on that. He was a destroyer of worlds.
Yeah, Khalil Mack was still here. So
yeah,
I think he was just good at, like, they were just one. Like it was not anybody individually who stuck out, but just that shows how special Vic Fangio was, that he took that group of guys and one of them had the highest coverage grade in the history of PFF. The collective unit had the highest secondary grade in the history of PFF. I know it was very short-lived and it didn't really turn to fruition, but if you take that one season, guys, you could make an argument that they certainly belong on the list. Just that 1 year. I'm not talking about the group in totality. I'm not talking about, like, Sean, when you put those guys when you put the list up on the screen, you're using like the nicknames they were called. And the reason they had nicknames is because they were like the No-Fly Zone or Legion of Boom or the Steel Curtain, because those guys were together for a long time. They were there for a very long time. It was like an era.
Won Super Bowls.
Yeah, it was an era.
Team on there besides the 18 Bears to not win a Super Bowl, I think, is the 91 Eagles.
Yeah, that was an era, right? Like the Denver had an era. The Seahawks had an era. Like that was a 5, 6, 7, 8 year span where those units were together, and they'll always be remembered because they had such an impression on football fans' minds because they were together for so long. Like you could never forget them. People will forget the 2018 Bears because they were only together for one season, but that one season, they were fucking amazing. They were absolutely incredible, and you got to give credit where credit is due. Listen, are any of the guys that I just talked about on the Chicago Bears 2018 secondary my favorite safeties or corners of all time? No. Definitely not. But for one season, that secondary kicks some ass.
So Kyle,
kicks some ass? It was fun to watch, man. It was fun to watch.
If we go back, and I'm just wondering if PFF didn't take grades, because if you go back to the 85 Bears defense, or secondary, they allowed a 47.7% completion percentage. They only allowed 16 passing touchdowns on the year and a 51.2 passer rating. Did the 2018 touchdowns? Did the 2018 Bears defense secondary even stack up close to them?
Well, no, but when they do these PFF grades individually, they're grading you for your individual performance. So like Sean, and I'm not saying that those guys weren't great. I know they were, and obviously you guys got to see them. I didn't, but they also did get you. Obviously the secondary looks better when the defensive line is the best in the history of football. And they're constantly braiding the quarterback who's constantly throwing the ball up in the air to random people on the other team. Like, of course they're going to look better than they actually are. Even if it's just a little bit.
But Kyle, the real reality is, I think it's actually harder to play secondary now than it was in '85. You could basically ride the back of the wide receiver. You could lead with your helmet. Yeah. You could hit the guy blindsided. Nobody cared, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot more difficult with these rules for these safeties and DBs to cover. But regardless of that, I remember the 18 season, and I don't remember commenting on the secondary very often as I was watching those games. It was mostly the linebacking crew and that defensive line. I'm sure the grades are great. Obviously, somebody did the studying and the homework, but me personally, I'm just not buying. I'm not saying they're terrible. I'm not saying they're 10.
I'll tell you this. I think Kyle Fuller, for me personally, guys, remember, you guys have watched the Bears longer than I have, but for me, Kyle Fuller personally is a top 5 Chicago Bears cornerback all time. I think he's in the top 5 for me personally. Because I didn't watch 85. I didn't watch 80. I didn't watch 89. I started watching the Bears in 96. So Kyle Fuller is probably a top 5 corner for me in my personal Bears lifetime.
Sure.
And then, guys, it may have not turned out the way we wanted it to, but you can't tell me there wasn't a time, especially like maybe 2018, where you were thinking to yourself, is Eddie Jackson the best safety in the world?
No, he was really
Is this guy
good,
the best
man.
Well,
safety
we
in
were
the
really
world?
happy with him. Yeah.
I mean, the guy, wherever the ball went, Eddie Jackson was there. No matter where the ball was, Eddie Jackson was there. I think it's when he got paid, guys. I think he started making business decisions. And like I said, Jason, I agree with you. I agree with what you're saying. I agree with everything you're saying. And you do make a good point. It's tougher to play corner now in the NFL than it was obviously in 85. I mean, you can't touch the receiver until basically he has the ball in his hands. You're literally not allowed to touch him. I don't think this is one of the best secondaries all time. I think it was one of the best years for a secondary all time. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, that's fair.
And I'll tell you this too. When you talk about Bears secondaries, I think one secondary and that really goes overlooked. Now, two of these guys were on the 85 team, but that 88 Bears secondary, I think a lot of people forget about Vesty Jackson and how good Vesty Jackson actually was. He had a short stint here, but while he was here, man, he was the shit. He had 8 interceptions. He was tied for second in the league in 88. And that team allowed 13.4 points per game. They took the ball away 23 times in that secondary. Now, Mike Richardson and Dave Durson were still here. They had Maurice Douglas, who was probably the worst of them, of the bunch, but still a decent player. But that 88 secondary might, and I hate to say it, might even be a little bit better than the 85 secondary. People forget how good the 88 Bears was.
And just real quick, once again, that's the year I was born. That's when I was born. So I can't sit here and tell you I know much about the 88 secondary. But and like I said, I agree with both you guys. And I bet you there's probably 20 secondary units better than the 18 Bears, but they didn't have as good of a year as the 18 Bears.
The Legion of Boom was dominant, though. The Legion of Boom, I will say, list. I think that's correct. I think
and just so everybody in the chat knows, if you guys haven't checked out this PFF article, that was the team that they narrowly beat out. Was the Legion? It was the Seahawks? They beat,
which I find almost impossible to believe.
And when I read it, I first read it like, oh, the Legion, they are second behind the Legion of Boom, and then I had to like reread it, and I'm like, what? There's no way they surpassed the Legion of Boom. And then I clicked on the article, and I'm like, oh my god, PFF has them ranked ahead of the Legion of Boom. The Legion of Boom, in my mind, is in my lifetime is probably the best second. Those Buccaneers teams were close. When you're talking about, wasn't John Lynch and Rondé Barber on the same team, right?
Yes, that secondary in Tampa featured Rondé Barber, John Lynch, Brian Kelly, and Dwight Smith, which is an incredible secondary.
Like obviously a way better unit than the 2018 Bears. But here's the question: did that secondary, Sean, ever have a season as good as the Bears did in 2018?
But again,
I'm going to say the year they won the Super Bowl.
Teams were afraid of the Bears secondary. I don't think they were. Everybody was afraid of the Legion of Boom. Everybody.
Sure, Jason, I
agree, Phil.
Wrong, but I mean, basically what PFF is saying is, per their positions, their individual responsibilities. In 2018, these guys did their job better than anybody before them or after them as a unit, all together.
I'm not normally annoyed by BFF. But this does annoy me.
It is, right?
I'm just going to say, I personally think 85 and 88, that both secondaries were better than 2018. That's just my opinion.
That year, or are you talking about just as a unit? Like they had better years?
Well, that year too. The Bears secondary in 88 led every statistical category in the fucking league. And they allowed 13 points a game. I mean,
yeah, maybe Jason's right. Maybe you guys, maybe they're not. Maybe they don't. Maybe they're harsher critics of those 80 teams because those 80 teams could do whatever they wanted at the line of scrimmage. Like throw the receiver to the floor and then be like, all right, now catch it, motherfucker. Like the Bears in 2018, you couldn't do that. You couldn't touch them when they're coming off the line of scrimmage. You can't touch them. It's pass interference. It's holding.
Yeah, they started changing the rules in like the mid 90s
to favor the offense. Yeah, 100%.
Well, because they were starting to lose in the late 80s. They were starting to lose viewership. And then in the early 90s, they were really kind of dipping down. Dallas kind of helped a little bit with their Super Bowl runs, but they needed to score more points because people got like bored with. During the 80s, Kyle, I can't tell you how many like 10 to 6 games there were. How many like 12 to 9 games there were.
Jason, that's my type of shit. I love that shit. I wish that's how football still was. I wish
that's how we grew up, dude. Everybody had like a fullback, right? Everybody had a running back. The
Yeah.
fullback always
Listen,
led
I'll-
to the running
I'll
back.
tell you-
Fullback's a lost art, man.
I'll tell you guys right now, I am just as surprised as you guys have seen more football than I have, and I am just as surprised as you guys that this 2018 Bears secondary unit ended up being the highest ranked for one single season of any team in NFL history. Like even like you said, Sean, like maybe 85 had worse seasons than 2018, but you think that they had one season, the 85 secondary, where they were better than the 2018 Bears, but according to PFF, they weren't. There was never
The
a single
86
season.
Bears were actually very good as well. People forget about the 86 Bears, but they were very good.
Yeah, and just so we're all clear, Kyle, your birth year is the reason why I hate the 49ers, because I was really into football, and I was really getting into football. I was 12, and I thought the Bears were going to win the Super Bowl, and it was the first time my heart was ever broken because the Niners stomped the shit out of the Bears, and I was really pissed. And ever since then, I've hated the 49ers. So
I was
that's
gonna say,
pretty much where the 49ers hatred comes from.
I was going to say, you guys, for me personally, when you talk about those years, I'm reading it out of a book, but didn't the Niners beat the shit out of the Bears in 88? Wasn't it like 35-10 or something like that?
Yes, the Niners have beat the shit out of the Bears in the playoffs more times than I can count, and that's another reason why I hate the 49ers. It was 84.
Sean, I think there was
a point
in the 80s and 90s where unless you lived in San Francisco, the entire world hated the 49ers. There's probably a good, and I think the Cowboys probably had the same situation. The Patriots certainly had that at some point. I don't blame you, because there was a time where the 49ers were borderline unbeatable, very similar to the Chiefs over the last seasons.
That 84 season, I know that the Bears ended up, I believe, I think they got shut out by the Niners, but yeah, the Niners' history against the Bears. I don't ever want to play the Niners in the playoffs. I can tell you that.
Well, let me ask you guys this.
I
And I don't know. I'm sure Dante's just joking, but he says the 2026 Bears secondary is the best. So let me ask you guys this. Jason, I'll start with you.
That's true, Prophet.
Who would you rather have? All the guys we just talked about from the 2018 team in their prime, or all the guys in the 2026 Bears secondary in their prime?
2026.
Well, it's hard to say because
we don't know much about Dillon Thieneman.
Two of the guys are back from last year, so some of them are new, and I've never really seen play for the Bears right now. They don't literally have zero stats. Our two safeties have zero stats for the Bears right now. I actually love Jalen Johnson. I really hope he does better this year and gets back to that 24 year that he had. Because if he's that, and the rest of the secondary looks good, I think they're going to far surpass the PFF scores of 2018.
I agree, dude. Listen, if Jalen Johnson and Kyle Gordon stay healthy and Kobe Bryant continues to do what he did in Seattle, because we all know he was amazing in Seattle. They hated to lose him. They've numerous articles come out that Seattle is like having second guesses about not paying Kobe Bryant. That destroyed them.
And then you have Jalen Johnson, if he gets back to his prior form. If Dillon Thieneman turns out to be a stud, which by all accounts, not just us Bears homers, but like experts think he's very, very good.
Realistic expectations are that he should be, right? Like it's not crazy of you to be like there's no way this first round pick is going to be a great player in the NFL. Like he should be. I agree.
He can pull his head out of his ass.
I agree. I agree with you, man. Like if you give me those names, Kyle Fuller, Eddie Jackson, Adrian Amos, good players, especially in their prime. Like I said, their prime. You're taking their prime.
Only one of those guys is still in the league, though, I think.
Yeah, and Eddie Jackson was amazing in his prime. Adrian Amos was a good, fundamentally sound footballer. He wasn't a star by any means necessary, but he did his job. Sean, you talked about Kyle Fuller on this podcast a million times. He was much better than people ever give him credit for. But I'd still, you talk about Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, Kobe Bryant, and then what we expect Dillon Thieneman to be. The only position on the Bears that you're really kind of secondary right now that you're kind of a big question mark to me personally, even outside of the rookie and Thieneman, who, like you said, has never accumulated a stat, is the cornerback too. Because
who is it?
Malik, is it Stevenson? Is it Muhammad? Is it a collection of guys? Is it Trey Smith? Is it a collection of guys? We don't know. But if those four guys play to the best of their abilities, the guys we just talked about, Thieneman, Bryant, Gordon, Johnson, I'm taking 2026 over 2018 all day.
Yeah, 100%. I am.
Not a question.
I am on talent.
I think Jalen Johnson, for me personally, guys, maybe outside of Charles Tillman, once again, my lifetime, because I know you guys have seen a lot more football than I have. Outside of Peter Tillman, because he's like my favorite Bear of all time, I think Jalen Johnson and my personal opinion, will go down as the second best Bears corner I've ever watched.
Who?
Jalen Johnson.
Oh, second best?
If he can get back to where
Peanut
he was
Tillman number one,
24,
Jalen Johnson number two.
I think Jalen Johnson's a better shut down cover corner than Tillman ever was.
Yeah,
I don't even know that it's that close.
Just
Pina was just smart.
Yeah, but how often?
Pina was smart. He played smarter. But
how often he took the ball away, man? You can't replicate that. That's just so valuable to give the offense the ball back 3 times a game. That they actually end up. I mean, the guy had 45 something.
I get
fumbles, 45, 46. That's insane, dude.
There's two different ways to tackle.
Not to mention his picks. He had a lot of picks too, but just the forced fumbles. Like you guys hit 4 in one game against the Panthers. You remember that?
Yeah, but if you look at forced fumbles like all time list, it's all a bunch of defensive linemen and linebackers, and then there's Peanut Tillman like tucked in there.
Yeah.
You're like, there's not another DB for like 70 spots.
It's like defensive end, Charles Tillman, defensive end, linebacker, defensive end, linebacker, defensive end, defensive end, defensive end, defensive end. It's insane. And you guys, you talk about Sean. I'm not disagreeing with you, by the way. Prophet, I'm not disagreeing with you. I think Jalen is a better coverage corner than Peanut Tillman. I bet you Peanut Tillman would tell you that himself. But you guys, how many corners can take over a game?
Yeah.
Charles Peanut Tillman forced 4 fumbles on the Panthers.
Well,
4.
you know too, Kyle. It's hard,
the coaches are like, dude, hold the ball when Tillman's coming towards you.
Yes.
It's hard for Jalen because Jalen doesn't get enough action.
Sure, and I agree
because he's so good, but they don't throw the ball.
And you guys, it's crazy because there really is 2 different types of corners in this league. There are guys
100%.
who take a lot of chances and they'll give up big plays, but they get more picks. And there's guys like Jalen Johnson who are like, hey, I'm not going to get you 12 picks this season, but I'm going to allow 150 yards receiving, maybe a touchdown. Sean, to be honest with you, when I just talked about with Jason, like I love the classic defense. I love defense. I like the Darrelle Revises more than I do the guys who pick off a bunch of passes. I do. That's why I'd rather a corner who doesn't let the ball. The quarterback's like, well, we're just not going to throw to that side of the field because Jalen's over there, so that's done. We'll just focus over here. I like that guy better. The guy, what do they call him? An island, whatever you want to call him. I would prefer that guy over to like a Travion Diggs, who his first year in the NFL gave up like 9 touchdowns but had like 10 picks. I'd much rather have Jalen Johnson, but I feel like the NFL is leaning more towards these ball hawk guys. These guys who take
it's more exciting.
You guys a fan of D'Angelo Hall?
Yeah, he's a good player.
Yeah, I liked him.
I mean, he did pick up.
He was a douchebag. I liked him. He was a good player, but he was a douchebag. I mean, I think Richard Sherman was a douchebag. He was amazing.
Yeah, I still think he's a douchebag.
I'm not going to take away from the fact that he was one of the best corners ever to play football. Not a question.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you guys
like Sunum Cum Lau at like Stanford too, or something like that.
Richard Sherman. I think so. I think you're right, Jay.
He's not a dumb human being. He's
very, very smart.
No, he was very well spoken, articulate. I just thought he was an aggravator. He was an asshole. But you guys, I think when the more interceptions these guys get, regardless of what their passer rating allowed is, the more money they make.
I don't know who that is, Prophet. Namandi Asumugo?
Yeah, you do.
I'm not going to talk about
Asumuga.
Yeah, I remember him. He was on the Raiders. He was on. Yeah. I believe he was a Raider.
Yeah, you remember Asumuga, Jason. If you saw a game with him, and you'd be like,
if you saw him, you would know him for sure. 100, without a doubt. I know you would.
Dante says, I like one of each, a cover guy and a physical guy. Yeah, I'm fine with that too.
You need a Jalen and then a strip guy.
Yeah, hell yeah. You need a Kevin Byard and a Jalen Johnson. Hell yeah.
I mean, there's so many good guys like Eric Allen, Ronnie Lott, and Jack Tatum is another one. Mel Blunt.
Real quick, guys. Jake Grizz. Jake Grizz has been here before, right? Hey, what's going on, man? How you doing? Either way, it doesn't matter. Jay, thanks for joining the show. He says Champ Bailey was criminally underrated.
100%.
Yeah, Champ Bailey was awesome.
I don't know if he was criminally underrated, though. Champ Bailey was actually pretty.
He's probably top 10 all time.
So Kyle,
he should be on those lists. If he's not, then he is underrated.
Then he is. Kyle and Jay, you guys both have the Legion of Boom #1.
Yeah, no doubt.
I would. Yeah.
I have Denver. I'm gonna go with Denver.
No fly zone. Well, Sean, if you like them because there's 2 Jayhawks on that shit. That's why you like that team, dude. I knew that was coming at some point. I'm like, I know for a fact Sean's gonna talk about champion. Like, I know for a fact it's coming. I know for a fact.
Hell yeah, Alik Talib and Chris Harris, my Jayhawks winning the Super Bowl, shutting everybody down. I loved it.
You guys, I'm not gonna lie. I knew the more I started to watch that Legion of Boom defense before they won the Super Bowl, I knew they were going to win a Super Bowl. I'm like, this defense is insane. Cam
Did you see
Chancellor,
Chris
Richard
Harris was on the 06 Bears that went to the Super Bowl?
Oh,
Dude.
no kidding. Look at this. Eric Allen married my cousin's best friend. That's pretty
Jason,
awesome.
I love Chris Harris. I love Chris Harris, man.
Me and Sean had drinks with him, and then he at the fan convention, he was like 24 years old. Walked up to the hotel rooms with like a smoking hot cougar. I mean,
yeah, you remember we were sitting there with him, and he was like, you guys need a drink? And he just walks behind the bar and grabs those beers. I was
really
like,
cool,
hey,
dude. That's back when the fan convention was like.
Awesome. But Chris Harris, though, when he was 24, he looked like he was 35.
Yeah,
a bald guy with a mustache. I'm like, this guy looked like he was in his 40s. But dude, the only guy, Jason, you and I are different. I didn't like Nathan Vasher. I thought Nathan Vasher was fairly overrated. He had one good season. He was in a handicap in the Super Bowl. He screwed up so many times that Super Bowl. He was a big reason they lost that game. I did not like him at all, man. I hated it. The only thing that I loved about Nathan Vasher was that 109-yard kick return or missed field goal to return for a touchdown.
And I was gonna say, as you talk about that, Jason, you might remember that kickoff return because he was running right at us. Remember that shit?
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris McAllister was the shit too. He was awesome.
Hey, Chris Harris. Speaking of Chris Harris, God have mercy on his soul, and hopefully he gets another job because he's stuck in hell with the New York Jets. I believe is their defensive passing game coordinator or something like that. I hope he gets another job because he's stuck over there with homeboy from the Lions. I can't think of his name. What's the coach? What's the head coach over there?
Who are you talking about? Like, I know you're talking about Aaron Glenn, but who? What was the coach you're talking about?
Chris Harris from the Bears.
I didn't know
he's a passing game coordinator.
Yeah, I thought he was a coach of like a high school or something. Was that this year that he got that job?
Let's see.
Well, he's been an NFL coach for a while.
Oh, really? I thought he was like at a college or high school for some reason. I don't know. I'm not gonna lie. I don't follow Chris Harris's after football career.
R.W. McQuarters, J Grizz with a
you remember that dude? Paul Riga says Eric is a great dude, very friendly and always willing to help anyone. That's good shit. That's good to hear.
R.W. McQuarters.
You guys remember that guy? R.W. McQuarters.
That's a bull. I didn't even think about that name until I just heard it.
He was the return man too, right? Wasn't R.W. McQuarters?
He
was a kick return partner.
Yeah.
Who was the guy who played for the Redskins for a long time with the long dreads who was constantly getting fined for just killing people? Tall, skinny guy. I think he played for the Bears for a season too. He had long dreads. He was a corner, but he was an asshole. He was kind of like a Vontaze Burfict of corners. He was just constantly like hitting people in the head, like just constantly fined every other game. Oh, he was an asshole, man. I forgot his name. I think he played for the Bears. Maybe I think he played a season with the Patriots as well.
Anybody?
I think he played for the Patriots as well.
Yeah, that's true, Prophet. Vasher was supposed to be a guy. I'm kind of with Kyle. I mean, I didn't hate Nathan Vasher. I just think that he had like this like really short good spell, and then he just couldn't continue it, and he kind of fell off. You know,
Eddie Jackson did.
No, Nathan Vasher.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. You know, that's kind of. I mean, that's okay. The Bears have had some really, really good defensive backs, and there's been a ton around the league too. You know, like we can keep mentioning them. You know, what's his name? Who was the show? Well, you said Darrelle Revis already. I was just trying to think of his name. I mean, even some lighter guys like Eric Wright from the Niners or Andre Waters from the Eagles. You know, for me when I rank these, and I hate to be like so biased, but I still put the Bears there. If I had to rank these, and I put them up, I would put. I wrote them down. I would put the 2013 Seahawks, the 2015 Broncos, the 84 Niners, the 02 Bucks, and the 2000 Ravens in the same conversation as the 85 and 88 Bears secondaries. Those are everyone else I think falls behind them.
You know, when you also look and you're naming off those
Hanks, that's another good one, Jay Grizz.
I think all those defenses were like ranked number 1 or like 2 those seasons as well. So, like we were saying, you can't you can't play like you used to back in the 80s or whatever. But Kyle, you had mentioned it earlier in the program here that all those teams I do believe had very good defensive lines as well. So maybe that does help with the secondary a little bit, right? Because if you got no time to throw it, you're rushing the ball, you're making mistakes.
Yeah, and another one that we're not really talking about is Troy Polamalu.
Oh, Troy Polamalu was a stud.
Yeah, he's probably him and Ed Reed are probably 2 of the best safeties.
Dude, we can't even get into safeties. This conversation will go far. Brian Dawkins, Sean Taylor.
I've ever seen Sean Taylor. God rest his soul.
Oh God, bro, there were so many.
Pac-Man
Jones was a piece of. She's not the guy I was thinking of, but yeah, he was a real big piece of shit. He was an absolute.
He was a piece of shit.
Ty Law was absolutely amazing. Rod Woodson, Charles Woodson. I mean,
Sean Taylor was the shit, man. God rest his soul.
Mike Brown had still the 2 back-to-back best games I've ever seen by a safety. 2 walk-offs.
Sean Taylor hits hard, and he hit hard, and he got fined occasionally. But I don't think he was considered like a shitty person. I think the league respected him a ton. Actually,
I think so. Yeah.
Sean Taylor was amazing. It was such a short career, but that guy, Prophet says the GOAT. Yeah, he was. I don't know if he's talking about Rod Woodson or Sean Taylor, but Sean Taylor was absolutely a blast to watch, man. There's a lot of guys, man, that.
Was it Charles Woodson?
People are quick to forget.
Yeah, that's true. Short memories in this league.
I mean, Rondé Barber, guys. The guy was amazing. Amazing. He was amazing.
That Tampa Bay secondary, man, when you stack it up, that's one of the best secondaries ever, dude.
They invented the modern system of how safeties and DBs play, guys. Yeah. Everybody does that now. Everybody's base system is a Tampa 2, a cover 2. Everybody.
Yeah. Al Harris, yeah, that's another good one, man. Jay Grizz. Jay Grizz is on it now, man. He's smoking.
Is that the guy who got? Is Al Harris the piece of shit? I mean, I know D'Angelo Hall got fined a lot. He was constantly fighting with like his own teammates and shit. He wasn't a great dude either.
It was funny because Jay, that was.
It might have been RJB. Was it RW McQuarters? Was he the guy that was killing people? No, I don't think so.
No. That year, that D'Angelo Hall game where he picked off Cutler 4 times. That was the year we had those season tickets, and we sold that game.
I remember
we sold that game that day to my Aunt Judy and my cousin Ryan.
I remember watching that game. Like if all the people in the world to give the ball 4 times to, because you know what, at that point in his career, guys, he really wasn't that good anymore. But he just had like a hell of a game against them. He was not. That was like the worst D'Angelo Hall ever played. But he just had an amazing game against the Bears. I hated him. I despised him.
Yeah, Leroy Butler, but you can't forget about Charles Woodson either. You know,
Charles Woodson was maybe the best athlete in
the last
secondary of all time.
Is Charles Woodson the last defensive MVP? Is that Charles Woodson?
Ooh.
Well, not defensive MVP. I think it was MVP.
Yeah, I mean MVP. I mean an MVP who was a defensive player. Wasn't it the last one to do it? Was Charles Woodson? Wasn't it?
No.
I'm checking right now.
Defensive end.
I know Von Miller was a defense or was a Super Bowl MVP, right?
Yeah.
I thought it was one of the Woodsons who was the last MVP who was a defensive player. I don't know. I digress. Either way, it's outstanding year by the 2018 Bears secondary. It's good that it's cool that PFF gave them that notoriety.
100%.
You know, like it's cool that the Bears are involved in another best
Tim
ever
Jennings.
conversation.
There's a name.
Tim Jennings was awesome, but he's certainly not one of the best corners.
No.
But he was awesome. I like
Tim Jennings was a good guy, man.
Actually, dude, I don't think dude. Defensive MVP players in NFL history. It's Lawrence Taylor and Alan Page. That's it. That's the list.
Oh, you know what? Maybe Woodson was the last one to win a Heisman. Last defensive player to win a Heisman, was it?
That could be.
Is that Woodson?
I
don't know. One of those accolades. Defensive players never win. I think Charles Woodson was like the last one to win it. I think it might have been maybe Heisman.
I'm looking right now. Travis Hunter.
Travis Hunter was a dual though, offense and defense. So they didn't specify he won it because of defense.
Yeah, Justin
It's
said
him
Charles
and
Woodson.
then Charles Woodson. So yeah.
Charles Woodson says Justin said Charles
So
Woodson one line and
Boston.
Peyton Manning up. Peyton Manning. I'm
Oh,
assuming.
Manti Te'o in 2012 won it.
Fucking water tastes weird.
He did. He won the high. Oh, that's right.
Oh no, he finished second. Sorry,
He finished second. I was gonna say I didn't remember that, but I remember he was in it.
Aiden Hutchinson finished second in 21.
Hutchinson's a badass.
Hutchinson's a nightmare. We got to deal with every year for the rest of our lives.
Oh, and then Ndamukong Suh in 09. He was up there. He didn't win, but he was up there.
Didn't what's his name on the guy in the Browns, the defensive tackle? Wasn't he in the conversation for Heisman as well?
Who
I don't know.
Mason-
Charles
Mason-
Woodson beat out
Mason
Peyton
Graham.
Manning.
Wasn't Mason Graham in the Heisman conversation?
Who
I don't know,
was
Sean.
the final
Sean,
segment?
I know Sean is itching to get to some fantasy football. I know that. Anything else you guys want to say about the secondary, the Chicago Bears?
No, it's a good time, man. It's a good time, and as we stated, I think this year's secondary has a chance to be talked about. Maybe among these lists, we'll see. Time will tell.
Well, and you know what?
Hang on, real quick, dude. Charles Woodson beat out Randy Moss and Peyton Manning for that, dude.
Yeah, Charles
For the
Woodson was
Heisman.
amazing, dude. He was amazing, dude. Charles Woodson.
That's pretty
yeah,
impressive.
but then they also wasn't Randy Moss already like causing trouble then? Like, didn't he? Wasn't
I don't know.
Like
he
an
had maybe
asshole?
one of the greatest rookie seasons of all time, though.
Yeah, he's amazing. I'm not taking away from him. But if he was one of those guys that was constantly in the news for doing stupid shit, that would give a strike against him when it comes to Heisman voting for sure.
Mhm.
Even in those times.
Not Peyton Manning, though.
No, Peyton Manning should have been the Heisman. He should have been the Heisman. Peyton Manning is one of the best players ever to play football.
Yes.
Not just quarterbacks, players ever to play football. Jason, you talk about those teams changing the way the defenses were played. Peyton Manning changed the game of football. Changed it completely.
He brought back the pocket passer, and he's, I believe, the last guy to like call the majority of plays.
He was the first guy ever to step into a line of scrimmage and be able to change the play to 6 different plays. First guy ever to do that.
That's insane.
I mean, that memory is impressive. That's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Sean, I'm going to get some water. Start that fantasy talk.
Well, he goes. You want to roll out? You want to roll out our dual threat here, Kyle? Because MTN's gone, so it's Tootin' to the rescue.
Yeah, guys. So this isn't where this part of the show is going to be about fantasy. So please stick with us, and we'd like to hear you guys fantasy sleepers. These are so when we originally did this, they weren't necessarily fantasy sleepers, as they are like late, maybe middle to late round winners.
Middle guys.
Guys who
I think a couple of my guys are sleepers.
Yeah, there's definitely sleepers in there for sure. But some of these guys you could take earlier than their ADP, and they might win you your fantasy.
Yes,
that's the guy I'm talking about. You could definitely take them earlier than their ADP, and they can win you your fantasy league. And Sean, start it off, man, because you and I, we both had. And guys, we didn't talk to each other when we did this. We each picked 5 guys, and Sean and I both ended up taking Tootin just because, obviously, I'm sure most of you guys know about ETN's gone, so it's probably his backfield to lose. Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, and there's just something about Liam Cohen for people who follow these kind of nerdy things. Liam Cohen has continued from college when he was at Kentucky, being reunited with Chris Rodriguez, who in 2021 he gave 225 carries for 1,379 yards, 6.1 yards per carry at the University of Kentucky. 13 receptions, 61 yards, and another 3 touchdowns on top of that. He also made Ray Davis a star on 199 carries, 1,100 yards, 6 yards a carry, 14 touchdowns, another 33 receptions. So basically where I'm going with this is he transformed first Tampa Bay. When you look at Ricard White, who led the team with 613 rushing yards, 4.3 yards per carry in his last year there, then turned around and had Bucky Irving on the same team, had Bucky Irving on the same team with 207 carries and 1,100 yards. So he didn't lead the team, and 8 touchdowns. So between the two, something similar you might see picking up, especially in touchdown leagues, a guy like Chris Rodriguez, because the thing that does worry me a little bit about Bashal Tootin will be his usage inside the 5. But last year he did have, with NTN there, he had a 25% share in the red zone. He had 23 attempts inside the 5. He converted 4 of those into touchdowns. He was 2 for 2 in the passing game in the red zone, turned them both into touchdowns. Don't forget this guy, 4.32 explosive speed. The backfield is his and Chris Rodriguez's. Liam Cohen, all this guy does is turn running backs into stars.
He drafted him too, right? So
yeah, he did draft them, and then he went back. Like I said, he worked in 2021 at the University of Kentucky with Chris Rodriguez. He brought Chris Rodriguez, signed him from Washington from last year. He's familiar with them, and for me, that with that familiarity comes, hey, I know this guy's strengths and I know this guy's weaknesses. I know where I can use Chris Rodriguez and where I have to push Michelle Tootin. I think Tootin's in for a primetime year and a running back that right now is going in the 3rd and 4th round that might be able to help you win your league. What do you have on Tootin there, Chris, or Kyle?
Yeah, so first and foremost, man, his average ADP in PPR is 70. So at the 70th pick, which
I think that's going to go up though by the time the actual draft
sure.
starts.
But right now with him being an 8th round pick, 70 would be an 8th round. So
that's
I'd be fine taking him in the 6th, 5th or 6th, no problem. I think he's a starting running back. And you guys, like Sean said, you look at the backups: Chris Rodriguez, LaQuint Allen, and Amir Abdullah. Not outside of Chris Rodriguez, who I think will probably get about 40% to 60% carries.
Yep.
Nothing special. Nothing to like. Yeah, well, I'm not taking Tootin because Jonathan Taylor is raping it. Like nobody to like dethrone him. Among 55 qualifying running backs with at least 75 carries, he had a rushing success rate of 48.3, which had him 3rd of those 55 running backs. Yards after contact per carry was 3.3. That had him ranked 12th of those 55 running backs. And tackles avoided per carry was 21.8%. That had him ranked 10th out of those 55 running backs. So in the top 15 in all 3 of those categories. He's also, like Sean said a minute ago, a capable pass catcher, guys. He turned 14 targets into 10 catches for 79 yards and 2 touchdowns. Off 10 catches, the guy had 2 touchdowns. It's a pretty good percentage. And like Sean said, this is a guy who runs a 4.32. I know Tootin, when you look at him, he looks like a big dude, but the guy is fast.
He's fast, dude.
I could easily, Mikey, I love it. You're damn Tootin. I could easily see Tootin absolutely taking over that backfield and being a fantasy league winner. No doubt about it. Like, you get him in the 5th, 6th, 7th round, and this guy ends up being your running back 1 or 2. Yeah, I would keep a very close eye on Michelle Tootin.
And don't forget, when it comes to the passing game, who was the number 1 running back receiving touchdown team in the league last year? You already guessed it. It was the Jacksonville Jaguars at 7. If you guys remember against the Jets, Trevor Lawrence threw 4 passing touchdowns, all to running backs. So this is something that's in Liam Cohen's arsenal. He weaponizes his running backs. And for me, in a league, Jay, like Mills League that we're in, that's a touchdown league, I would definitely consider Chris Rodriguez, because even if, you're going to get the yards and you may not get as many touchdowns out of Tootin, you're going to make those up in a touchdown league. I personally believe with Chris Rodriguez, I think he was brought in to be that guy inside the 5. If Tootin gets stuffed, whatever, I think Tootin might get a chance. Like I said, last year with NTN, he had a 25% share inside the 5. So that's something that now
I think it'll get close. I think it'll closer to 50-50 though, because I think
ETN was.
I think ETN is just the better player. And now that he's gone, they're like, well, now it's Tootin. He needs to take over. I don't think they look at Chris Rodriguez as a much better player than Tootin. I think they probably looked at
I don't either.
Yeah, I think they probably looked at Travis Etienne and were like, well, yeah, he's a 1st round pick. He's better than Tootin, right? But
yeah. And you know what, Kyle? The one guy I forgot, the best year of his career under Liam Cohen, Cam Akers in 2022, 188 carries, 786 yards, 4.5 yards per carry, 7 touchdowns. He also had 13 receptions on that. So this guy has a history of making stars out of running backs. So Tootin's definitely on my board as a guy, especially in a league where I'm down picks. And now that I know that Kyle likes him, and now that we know Jay's going to be on him, I'm going to have to find my way to sneak in and go Tootin on Tootin.
Go ahead, Jason. Who do you got, man?
My first one, I'm going to go with Jonathan Brooks. Now, this is probably a little slightly controversial pick. I mean, the guy had like 2 injury. Well, started off the season recovering from an ACL injury, and then got another one. I think injured the other knee right after his recovery. So
it was the same. It was the same knee.
Right? Yeah, same knee.
Yeah,
it was the same knee.
If he's back to 100%, and remember, he's had like 18 months by the time the season started to basically get back to where he needs to be, so he should be. I know it's going to be a split backfield with Chuba Hubbard, but you can't forget this kid. First of all, he backed up Bijan Robinson and Roshan Johnson, right, in 22, I want to say it was. But what year was it? His last year, he had 238 carries for 1479, 16 rushing touchdowns, 33 receptions for 334 yards, and 2 more receiving touchdowns. If he's healthy, he has the ability to be a game breaker. And I guarantee you, he may go undrafted or be very, very late in your draft. And if you're looking for a handcuff or somebody to get on the cheap that may actually be a starter, probably if all goes normal, he might be a flex option for you. But he has, I believe, a very high ceiling if he's healthy. And I wouldn't be surprised if he beats out Chuba Hubbard, who's also a pretty solid back. But I think Brooks might be the better back there.
Yeah, that's a very good pick, Jason, because Chuba Hubbard doesn't scare me. Like, if I'm like a fantasy owner, I'm like, yeah, but what about Chuba Hubbard? That'd be like the starting running back in the NFL. I'm least worried about, maybe outside of Tony Pollard. Chuba Hubbard
had 6.2 yards a carry in college. I mean,
Chuba Hubbard's had flashes, but for the most part, the guy's been pretty average.
I'll be honest, Jay. I think that's a really good pick because if he does recover from this double ACL surgery, which we've already seen happen in the NFL with Nick Chubb,
they can recover from them now. Yeah.
It's not impossible. And we know it was the same knee. And I actually listened to a podcast about Jonathan Brooks today, and they basically said that the reason why he had to have double surgery is because whoever performed it when he heard it at the University of Texas botched the surgery and it wasn't done correctly. He went back on it and blew it out again. And like you said, Jay, 18 months off, they left him out on purpose because if you guys remember last year, they were talking about maybe he would come in that last quarter of the season.
He could have come back.
Yeah, and they were like, no, we're going to hold you
out.
Yeah,
because at that point, it's a ramp-up stage, right? Like, we're going to bring you back for the last 4 games of the season so you can get 4 carries. Why even risk it? Like,
right.
I have no problems with the way that the Panthers handled that situation.
They drafted him early, too. I think they want to use this kid. They want to use him.
And I'll be honest, I'm with you, Jay. I think as the season goes along, I think that becomes Jonathan Brooks' backfield.
It's the value too. When picking these fantasy picks, guys, in the chat there, my 2 biggest things are always target or like gain share. You know, like how many times are they getting the ball, right, per game? Because that's just a bigger chance of them obviously getting the ball and scoring more points. So these backs that are going to be the lead backs, bell cow backs like Bijan and whoever, those are obviously the best guys because they're getting the ball the most. The other thing I'm looking at is just value in the draft. I mean, Bijan is going to go early, right? Probably in the first round in almost every single draft.
Number 1. He should be number 1.
Yeah, Jonathan Brooks is he might not go drafted, or he may be very, very late. And if you kind of snag him before somebody else does, don't be surprised if you hear some moans like, for the rest of your league.
Yeah, because if you draft him and he does take over that backfield in what is a run-heavy scheme under Dave Canellis, you could end up with a top 15 back that you snag in the 6th, 7th, 8th round while everyone else is sleeping on him. So I'm with you, Jay. I like that pick a lot, and he's definitely on my board and someone that, again, for a guy who's down picks, I hope he falls right in that range, and then he's a guy that I can elevate into my lineup as an everyday guy, say halfway through the season.
Yep.
Good pick, man.
Who you got next, Sean?
He was on my radar when I was doing this. Jonathan Brooks.
You want me to go, Kyle, or you want to go?
Like running backs and wide receivers and everybody. And I was like, oh.
I'll go, Sean, because I've been talking about this guy for a month now, and everybody knows. I'm sure anybody who listens to this podcast knows who's going to be on my list, guys. But let me get into reason why. If you guys are in a league where a lot of people reach for those really stud, badass tight ends, wait on a tight end. Don't be grabbing a tight end in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round, even though you want the Lovelands or the Bowers, because at the end of the day, guys, it's just much tougher to replace stud receivers and stud running backs than those tight ends. A lot of the tight ends, once you get past those top 3 guys, have a lot of the same value. It's almost the same value, right? So to me, it's not worth reaching for. And a guy I'd keep a very close eye on is Isaiah Likely at the Giants, guys. Obviously brought over by John Harbaugh. He loved him enough to bring him to the Giants after he left Baltimore. His average ADP and PPR right now is 124. So, I mean, you guys are talking about the 13th round. I think you could take Isaiah Likely in the 10th or 9th, and he could be your starting tight end for the rest of the season. I would be comfortable with it. You guys, over the past 4 seasons, he's posted a 69.6% catch rate, so 70%, 11.6 yards per catch, and 8.1 yards per target. Those latter two marks, 11 6-point yards per catch and 8.1 yard, are the marks rank top 10 or top 8 among fantasy tight ends. Top 8 of all the tight ends in fantasy football. Like he's been particularly dangerous after the catch, averaging 5.5 yards after the catch per reception for his career. Over the past 4 seasons, he's posted 69.9% catch rate. Oh, I'm sorry. Those likely he's been across 9 career games without Mark Andrews. Remember, guys, Isaiah Likely in Baltimore was basically always stuck behind Mark Andrews. And I think part of that's just because they love Mark Andrews and he's been the constant professional. He's like their boy. That's their guy. But when he's been out, these are the stat lines for the 9 games that Isaiah Likely's played without him. His first game ever without Mark Andrews, 1 catch for 24 yards and his touchdown. His second game ever without Mark Andrews, 8 catches for 103 yards. Third, 1 for 40 yards, 1 catch for 40 yards. Fourth, 4 for 40, 5 for 83 and a touchdown. 5 for 70 and a touchdown, 3 for 56, 2 for 42 and 2 touchdowns, and 2 for 31 and 2 touchdowns. So this guy in 9 games without Mark Andrews scored 7 touchdowns in 9 games without Mark Andrews. That's absolutely amazing pace for a tight end. So if you take those 9 games, it's 3.4 catches per game, 50.3 yards per game, and a 0.8 touchdowns per game. If you took that right there, that pace, a full season of Isaiah Likely without Mark Andrews would have been 60 catches for 900 yards and 12 touchdowns. If he had that season last year, 60 catches, 900 yards, 12 touchdowns, if he had that exact season last year, he would have been tight end 2 in PPR. He would have been the second tight end in PPR. Definitely a guy who's, if he's there later in the later rounds, if nobody's taking Isaiah Likely, you're still without a tight end in round 7, 8, 9. I would certainly take him before his projected 13th round.
I'm
100%.
I'm a big fan of Isaiah Likely because, Kyle, when we talk about these tight ends, this is a hybrid tight end. You know,
he's a big dude.
Yeah, but he's very agile. He's kind of like Colston Loveland light. You know, he can run after the catch. He's one of these guys in this offense, and you saw it last year where Theo Johnson put up some good games for them. Now Likely comes with his coach who had him in Baltimore. I think there's a place for him, and I really like that.
Doesn't have Mark Andrews stealing those end zone.
Yeah, I mean, you guys to have 7 touchdowns and 9 games without Mark Andrews is amazing.
It tells you everything about his skill. Yeah.
This guy was on pace for a 12 touchdown season if Mark Andrews never played. I mean, here's the real question I have for you, which could be a different conversation for a different day. But Ravens, why was Mark Andrews on the field? Listen, I like Mark Andrews a lot, but he's only getting older, and he's dealt with a lot of injuries as of late. And you guys remember the boneheaded plays he's made as of late? Remember, I think the playoff game where he had a fumble, and then he dropped the game-winning 2-point conversion.
I'm surprised they kept him on the team.
I think Isaiah Likely should have earned some more playing time in that Ravens offense.
I agree.
And I think John Harbaugh was like, well, if we're not going to use him over there, which was John Harbaugh's fault that he wasn't used. He's like,
maybe it was Todd Monken's fault.
I'll bring him over here. Yeah, maybe it was Todd Monken's fault. Maybe he was used more for blocking, and maybe John Harbaugh was like, I can see the potential as a receiver. I'm going to bring him over here, and he's going to be our tight end 1. And I think he's going to be their tight end 1.
I agree. I agree. I think he will be the tight end 1. I think it's kind of like Isaiah Likely and Theo are kind of like Cole Kmet and Colston Loveland. You're going to have your guy that gets you all the yards. Then you're going to have this guy who gets you a good handful of yards and comes up with some big catches for you. A couple of
really important touchdowns, but for the most part, it's because 100%. There's so much focus on Isaiah Likely that Theo could kind of sneak out of there.
Yeah, so I'm going to just keep it alive. I was going to go wide receiver, but since Kyle went tight end, I'm going to do it. And this is going to be the 3rd show in a row that I've talked about my boy Chiggy Okonkwo. I love Chiggy and I love where he is, and I'm asking, can he crack a top 10 tight end spot?
Sean, what team is this? I've never seen that helmet right there on the right there. Who is this?
Oh, that's the original logo. That's the good logo. When it comes to Chiggy Okonkwo, this is a guy in his career as he was with the Tennessee Titans, who averaged about 70 targets a game, about 50 catches per year, and was productive. His efficiency was great. Is one of the better efficiency rates at the tight end position. 70 targets, 50 catches, 79 targets, 60 catches. I mean, this guy catches balls when they're thrown his way. So when I look at Chiggy and I look at the opportunity that he's going to have there in Washington, now there is a lot of talk that Stephon Diggs is going to sign in Washington, and we should see that ahead of training camp. That doesn't scare me too much.
Isn't he
Maybe
going to
lowers
jail?
from what I'm hearing is he's going to be in Washington. I don't think what he did is jailable offense. But as the number 2 target and getting those 70 targets a year, when you look at what Zach Ertz got over the past 2 years, 163 targets, coming off 91 and 72 in back-to-back seasons. Now you look at all the opportunity that's given there. So you say bump that up maybe to 100 targets. You get him 65, 70 catches. Now you're talking about 700 receiving yards, right around there, a little bit bump up from where he was in Tennessee. You get to that 5 and 6 touchdowns. That gets you about 140 fantasy points. Guys, do you know where 140 fantasy points ranks for tight ends over the past decade? Take a wild guess.
Third?
Not third. It ranks 9. It ranks 9th overall. So he cracks the top 10 with this opportunity that's given to him with all the free balls, because we mentioned it. Somebody mentioned it earlier. It's Terry McLaurin. Who else is on there? Maybe this young kid they drafted this year, or they still have Jalen Lane, who they drafted last year. But you're talking about guys that are learning in the NFL or who haven't been in the NFL. You're talking about Chiggy Okonkwo, who's proved he is that guy. Ertz is gone. He's in. I like him personally as a top 10 tight end with the opportunity he's being given in the nation's capital this year.
Well, and another one of those tweeners, Sean. He could pretty much play wide receiver, and he's incredibly athletic. And to be honest with you guys, I liked him in Tennessee. I don't know why they didn't use more of him.
Right.
I always liked Okonkwo. Always. You guys, there's been stints in fantasy where I've been decimated at tight end position or bye weeks, whatever, so on and so forth, that I have plugged and played him, and he's had weeks where he has done pretty damn well for me.
Kyle, you gave me a tip. It was either last year or the year before. You're like, bro, your tight end got hurt. He's like, go pick up Chiggy Okonkwo. I picked him up, and he had like 10 catches for 79 yards and 2 touchdowns or some shit.
I like him a lot, man. I like him a lot. I just don't, for some reason, he never fit in that offense, but I like him a lot.
He's a really good player, and I think he's going to thrive over there. And Sean, to kind of piggyback and transition into who I'm talking about, he's going to be good because there are 171 vacated targets for Washington this year. Somebody's got to pick it up, and I'll bring up who I'm talking about next here. But let's look at their depth chart at wide receiver right now. Terry McLaurin, Luke McCaffrey. I just don't know if he's got it in him. Then there's Treylon Burks, Diami Brown, Jacoby Jones, Van Jefferson. These are all like wide receiver 3 guys, and I don't know if they're going to be the ones that pick it up.
Not even.
And what says a lot about that staff is that they drafted a kid, Antonio Williams, who's my next sleeper. And honestly, this kid, in the college, he averaged like 11 yards per catch. He had like a 900-yard season, but they also used him out of the backfield quite a bit as well. And I think with those 171 vacated targets, this kid is probably in line to get more than is expected. I honestly see him probably as the number 2 wide receiver. And I think, Mike, you just said it, Terry can't stay healthy, so he could easily be the number 1 or number 2 by the end of the season on that team. Now my only contention with him is I don't know how good Washington's going to be on offense this year, simply because you got a new coaching staff, offensive coaching staff, and we don't know how that's going to really turn out. Sometimes it turns out great, sometimes it doesn't. We also need their quarterback to stay healthy too, right? That's another big one. And if he doesn't, he gets hurt again, that could obviously put a damper on his prospects here. But I don't think Antonio Williams is going to be on a lot of radars for people, and he's going to be another one of those high target share, chance, and very low in the draft. So he's a good value for what may be coming up here.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something about Antonio Williams too. 23 touchdowns in 43 college games. Coming off that junior year where he had 75 for 904 and 11 touchdowns.
Yeah.
He really thought that he was going to take a step up, took a step back in the offense, obviously as a senior, only 55 for 604. But as you stated, Jason, there's a lot of vacated targets there. You need a slot guy, and he was a premier slot guy in college playing big-time football at a big-time program. I'm a big fan of Antonio Williams as well.
He had 13 carries last year, too. They will use him, and I think that's why Washington wanted to pick him up, because their running game's not great right now. It's gotten a little bit better, but I mean, just to have another tool in your back pocket, right? This is one of those kids. I think what they did is, because Debo left, I think they want him to be what they thought Debo was going to be, right? And obviously Debo, I think his time in the NFL is probably up. But Antonio Williams, I've got my eye on him. I'll have the binoculars on him all season long, especially if he doesn't get drafted.
Well, yeah, Tom, the answer is yes until Charbonnet comes back.
Well, they're going to use Jarian Price.
Janarian Price could be a league winner.
Yeah, they're going to use him a lot. But yeah, I like the pick a lot, Jason. It's definitely a guy that, when they drafted him, I'm like, they got to keep an eye on that guy, because I just don't like that Commanders receiving core. And like you said, and Mike
That's
said,
the biggest knock, dude. Yeah.
Scary Terry's always hurt, always. So somebody has to catch balls. At some point, somebody has to catch. And those guys, the rest of those guys you talked about, Jason, they're behind those two. I wouldn't even call them wide receiver threes. I call them journeymen for like depth purposes.
Is Jalen Lane is still on Washington, isn't he?
Hang on,
he's on the Giants. Wasn't Jalen?
No, Jalen Lane is on there. Yeah. So
Jalen Lane's another deep sleeper I'd watch, especially if Terry McLaurin gets hurt. Jalen Lane he's awesome. His tape is amazing.
Well, and you guys said it, Mike said it. The one thing that scares me about Washington is just Jaden Daniels scares the shit. He's so small, man. He's so skinny.
And I don't know how effective the offense is going to be. I mean, we'll see. Maybe it's sometimes the new offensive coordinator comes in and shocks the world, right? We've seen it happen before many times, but that's like one new offensive coordinator that does it. It's never like 5 or 6. And I got a feeling that Washington's not going to be that team, but he could be. A lot of times I see these sleepers. I'm like, oh, this guy's going to be good. And the year I think he's going to be good, he's not, but the next year he is.
Yeah, and that happens to me all the time.
In football, you get like so pissed off. You're like, I'm never drafting this guy again. And then he winds up being a super stud for whoever picks him up next year.
Yeah, my next guy, guys, is I wouldn't necessarily consider a sleeper, because I think everybody in the world knows who he is, but it's a guy who I just doesn't think get enough respect, and that's Dalton Kincaid, obviously tight end for the Buffalo Bills. His average ADP right now, guys, in PPR is 127. So once again, a tight end going in the 13th round. I think he should be going a lot higher than that. It's just some of the statistic information here. Kincaid averaged 2.79 yards per route run last year. That was tops among all 38 tight ends who saw 40-plus targets. Nearly a half yard better than any other tight end in the NFL, 2.79 yards per route run. So he was actually number 1 in the NFL. In fact, it was the best mark from a tight end with 40-plus targets since George Kittle back in 2020. Tight ends with 2.5-plus yards per route run, minimum 40 targets, guys. There's only been 5 in NFL history. George Kittle in 2020 at 2.84. Dalton Kincaid second on that list in 2025, 2.79. Then you got George Kittle again in 2024, 2.62. Chiggy Okonkwo, Sean, 2022, 2.62, and then Travis Kelce in 2020, 2.5. So that's yards per route run. Only 5 in NFL history, and Dalton Kincaid's number 2, over 2.5 yards per route run. Kincaid also led all qualifying tight ends in targets per route, so 0.27, and fantasy points per route run. So guys, Dalton Kincaid led tight ends in fantasy last year, and fantasy points per route run. The reason Kincaid didn't have a great fantasy season is first of all, he missed 5 games with an oblique and hamstring, and he only played 12, and his time was limited in the other 12 contests. And remember, guys, 2 of those games, there was one where he got hurt, the original one where he got hurt, the oblique and hamstring, and he missed most of that game. So technically, I'd say he missed 6 games. And then the game he came back, they played him very sparingly. I think he played like 12 snaps that entire game. Kincaid played just 37.6 of Buffalo's offensive snaps in his 12 games that he did play. The even bigger issue, he ran a route on just 44% of those pass plays. So 44% of the pass plays in Buffalo, Dalton Kincaid ran out to catch a pass. That ranked 40th among all tight ends. Now, if you go back to Dalton Kincaid's first 2 seasons in the NFL, Kincaid played 68% of the snaps with routes run, and then 57. So if he gets back to where he was the first 2 seasons and he finds a way to stay healthy, if you look at the numbers, especially those numbers per route run, one of the best in football history, I think there's, especially now that you have DJ Moore there, who's going to take some attention away from guys like Dalton Kincaid and Khalil Shakir. Then you talk about drafting Skylar Bell, another guy who will slowly get integrated in the offense, another dangerous weapon for the Buffalo Bills. And then the run game. You guys remember that James Cook is always a guy, a threat out of the backfield to catch passes. I think a lot less attention is going to be paid to Dalton Kincaid this year by defenses, and I think he's going to have his best season as a tight end in the NFL. And I think he's going to sneak into the top 10 fantasy tight end.
Yeah, I actually had him in your brother's league last year, and I'll dogpile on that, Kyle, because we looked at this on Monday. He had 7 top 10 finishes in he played 12 weeks. So when he was out there, he was effective. And in your brother's league, when I had him last year, he really went. I really missed him when he didn't, because when he was out, because I didn't have anyone to replace him because his numbers. Josh Allen loves him.
Sean, remember, they now have an offensive-oriented head coach. And Joe Brady. And you guys, the fact that this guy per route run had the most fantasy points per route run, 0.7 points per route run. What, like, Buffalo, what are you doing? What are you doing? Give him the ball.
Get the ball in his hand.
Give Dalton Kincaid the ball. I think, to me, it seems pretty obvious. If anything, don't you guys think that just because of his size, Dawson Knox should be the blocking tight end and Dalton Kincaid should be catching passes? Dawson Knox is huge. Big dude.
Don't forget about Jackson Hawes there too, because I think Kincaid is, again, Kyle, like one of these hybrid tight ends.
I think he has star potential, man.
And you know what? With DJ Moore there, it probably takes a little bit of pressure off of him, and it might open him up and take away some of those double teams from him. So that alone may garner another 10, 15 targets and maybe another like 5-10 receptions. You never know.
And I also think that now that Joe Brady's the head coach, and like we said, he's an offensive coach, I think they're going to run more of the 12 and 13 personnel that you're seeing the rest of the league start to run. I think he's going to start to catch on. If they do, I'm telling you guys, I believe that Dalton Kincaid could sneak into like top 5 fantasy tight ends. I think he has star potential. I think he's an absolute badass. I just don't think he's ever been. I'll just give you the numbers. He's just never really been given the opportunity. But when he does, when he gets the opportunity, he's a badass, man. Most fantasy points per route run in the NFL last year for tight end.
Well, Kyle, since you said somebody who didn't have the opportunity but kind of did, leads me into my next guy. And this is a draft day steal. A former Green Bay Packer. We got Romeo Doubs, ADP 52 right now. And when you dig inside the numbers of Romeo Doubs, I know that A.J. Brown was signed there, but let me ask you this. Did Devontae Smith ever struggle with A.J. Brown on the other side of him? Absolutely not. He put up 1,000-yard seasons with him there. I think there'll be plenty of balls to go around. Last year with Green Bay, he had a 72% target share usage in the Green Bay offense with the revolving door that Green Bay used six wide receivers throughout, so they kept them off. I think that route share goes up to 80+ this year. You look at him moving from Green Bay, which last year was 30th in natural pass rate. He moves to New England now, who last year was 9th in natural pass rate. So you're getting a bump up in your passing from your quarterback, your offensive scheme. As I just stated, you have A.J. Brown on the other side, takes a little attention away. You're going to have a more competitive schedule. They're not going to be blowing teams out in the first half. So game script will keep him in the game for 4 quarters. I think at ADP 52, you're looking at what could be a steal when you look at 109 qualified wide receivers from last year. He was 18th in first downs per route run. He was 27th in fantasy points per route run. He was 23rd in separation per route run, and he was 5th in wide receiver win rates. So I expect all these numbers in this pass-heavy Patriots offense in games which they will have a tougher schedule, be more competitive, have to lean on the pass more. I think Romeo Doubs at ADP 52 at wide receiver is an absolute steal. A dude who hasn't had 1,000 yards in his career yet. I think because of the revolving door, we all know we hate the Green Bay Packers, and we've watched them use 6 wide receivers and not keep their premier players on the field as much as they should. I think that this is a hidden talent. I think Green Bay getting rid of Romeo Doubs was a blessing in disguise, because I think this dude is an uber talented wide receiver. When you look at those numbers, out of 109 qualified wide receivers, he's in the top 20. He was number 5 in wide receiver win rate last year. This guy is an absolute steal. I'm going to grab him. For me, he's a strong flex, maybe a 3, and someone who could possibly, in a pass-heavy offense, maybe turn into a 2. But I'm going to keep him at a 3 and a flex, and someone who's definitely going to get you points in the back end and help you win on a weekly basis.
Sean, do you happen to have his drop rate?
I did not get his drop rate. It did not.
I was looking at it. I don't think it was very high.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know his rookie season he had a struggle with drops, but I don't think last year. I don't think he had a ton of drops.
No, he's
And Sean Tom says in the upgrade to a top 8 QB from the obviously ESPN's rankings from a QB that couldn't even get an honorable mention in Jordan Love. I didn't even know that Jordan Love was an honorable mention. I thought he was. I didn't know he wasn't. That's awesome.
Kyle, and Jay, when you start talking about 18th and first downs per route run, that means he's getting you a 1.5 fantasy points per catch and most of his receptions. And then 27, he was 27th in fantasy points per route run. When you look at the usage went down in Green Bay. If it goes up, you can say that 27, he could sneak in to the top 20 in fantasy points per route run.
Considering the paycheck, I would expect the usage to go up.
And that's another thing.
I would expect the usage to go up.
You don't pay these guys to sit.
No,
I think Romeo Doubs is going to be heavily involved.
I'll tell you what, I got his drop rate, and it's pretty darn good. I think it's like 3 point something percent. He had 83 targets, it says here. 83 total targets, and was credited for only 3 drops. So
yeah, last year he was like Mr. Consistent for the Packers. He was their best weapon last year.
Yeah, and the Packers were like, "See ya and thank you."
Yeah, we'll let you go and we'll pay Christian Watson so we can play 8 games for us.
Yeah,
right? Nice job, Packers. Like I'm telling you guys, since Ted Thompson left, the Packers just do very unpacker-like things. And it's
but they drafted that kid who exploded onto the scene with 1 touchdown last year.
Matthew, I do think Matthew Golden's going to be. Matthew Golden would be one of my sleepers too. I almost put him in there. I think Matthew Golden's going to have a good season.
I think Matthew Golden's going to have a good season.
He should, yeah.
Go ahead, Jason. Let's hear it now.
All right. My next guy here is a wide receiver as well, and it is Mr. Alec Pierce. Now, obviously, there's about like 80 receptions or 75 receptions being vacated here by Mr. Michael Pittman, who's now over in Pittsburgh. But if you look at some of the contested catch rates, and this is what really, first of all, he's the number 1 guy there now, which is great. And if Daniel Jones can return to form, which I think he can. I mean, the Achilles worries me more obviously than the broken leg, but that may hurt his run game more than it does his pass game. So Daniel Jones may actually be passing more this year. And honestly, with Jonathan Taylor on your team, I don't know if you really need to be a running quarterback, to be honest with you. But I think he maintained a 42.3% contested catch rate, which is not that great. It's like middle of the pack. But it's the high-risk targets and the downfield targets that where he basically is just ridiculous. What was it said? Despite the high degree of difficulty, the elite catch rate radius allows him to rank among the league's top wideouts. And he was a rookie last year, if I do remember. He's literally, I think, the top guy in contested catch rate downfield. Honestly, I think he's averaging like 20-yard average or depth of target, which is ridiculous. He's probably going to be a boomer bust. And honestly, I don't think he's going to go that low in drafts, but I don't think he's going to be on a lot of radars as a really elite top wide receiver 1. I'm thinking this guy is definitely going to get over 1,000 yards this year. They're going to throw him the ball a lot deep. And I'll tell you what, you pound Jonathan Taylor, and then you go deep with Alec Pierce. And this kid has the potential to probably have some 30 and 40-point weeks in him just by the yardage and the number of touchdowns he gets. But as most wide receivers do that are like that, he may have a week where he only has like 8 points. So I would definitely pick him up, but monitor what's going on with the opposing team's defense. If they got really good safeties, they got really good secondary, I probably would not start him unless you got no other options. But most of the league, most of the time this year, I would put him in there because the AFC South is not great. You know what I mean? So other than Houston, if they're playing Houston, don't put him in. But
he's got Derek Stingley. Don't put him against Derek Stingley.
I like the pick, Jason. And his yards per catch led the NFL by like a lot.
It's ridiculous. A 20-yard target.
Every catch he had was like a 30, 40-yard bomb. And this is, I think it's actually his 3rd season, but he wasn't very heavily involved in the offense his first couple of seasons. They finally just found out how to use Alec Pierce. I agree with you, Jason. I think wasn't it you who picked him up last year? He made like a pretty good fantasy impact for you. I said to Sean at like week 8 last year, I'm like, dude, I don't know if anybody's noticed or not, but Alec Pierce is like fantasy worthy. Like he should be on somebody's roster for sure. And then I looked him up, and I think Jason, you just added him, but I like Alec Pierce. And now, like you said, somebody has to catch the ball. and Michael Pittman's gone. And Michael Pittman was the possession guy. He's the guy, and he missed a couple games last year. Usually he has a lot more catches than he did last year, but Alec Pierce is due for a really big season.
And as much as I like Josh Downs, and I think Josh Downs is super talented, he can't stay on the field either.
Yeah, and if Josh Downs can stay healthy, he might be on one of our lists. But
if he could say, you're absolutely right.
It's just not. He can't stay healthy, man. And Sean, you know how I am with those little guys. It's just not. It's so fickle to draft guys in fantasy like Jaden Reed who weigh 140 pounds when they're getting hit by 350-pound men. It's just.
Kyle, I almost put a little guy on here, but I didn't want you to destroy him, so I didn't. And that was Zachariah Branch, the former Alabama wide receiver. I was this close, and I'm like, oh my God, 5'9", 100.
You guys, have I not been consistent with that though? Since the day you met me, I'm like, I don't touch I don't touch Dank Dells. I don't touch those guys because they're always hurt. And it's just
Zachariah Branch, though, he's so decorated. He's so decorated. Like his size is very equivalent to Tank Dell. And that's what kind of scared me off. Like, man, I don't want to tell people to draft them. He's definitely a guy like come late rounds, 13, 14, 15, just because of the opportunity, because outside of Kyle Pitts and Drake London, there's just nobody else there. And they took this kid high enough where he should have some opportunity in that Atlanta offense. But again, I didn't want to throw him on here because
Sean, you should
have of Tank Dell.
I remember, there was a show where I said I expect him to be a sleeper this year. I think it was about 2 months ago. I was like, I like him a lot. You know why? Because how much I hate Olamide Zaccheaus. I hate him. The guy shouldn't be rostered. And now they're going into the season that's their number 2 receiver, Olamide Zaccheaus.
I honestly, Kyle, I think Zachariah Branch is going to have a lot to say about that, man. I really do.
I do. It's just for how many weeks? How many weeks?
Right.
His leg, all right, and that's another really, really good one, Jason. Alec Pierce is. I think Alec Pierce could at times, big chunks of the season, fill in as your wide receiver 1. I do.
Yeah, there could be stretches or games where like you need to have him on your starting lineup because the potential is just ridiculous.
I am so curious to see how Alec Pierce performs as the number 1 receiver. Because Sean, I think
I am as well.
Sean, I think you and I, it was me and somebody, I think it was you. I liked him in the draft a lot. I was like really hoping the Bears would look at Alec Pierce. I liked him a lot. And then, like I said, Jason, his first few seasons, they just it almost felt like they didn't know how to use him. They just didn't know how to use him properly.
And Pittman was just good too. So don't get me wrong.
Well, and
for a reason.
And not only did they not know really how to use him, but Antonio Richardson. Anthony Richardson didn't help him in any way, shape. The guy averaged like 12 completions a game. Once Alec Pierce got a quarterback, he started to look like a wide receiver.
I like speedy white guys.
The only thing about Alec Pierce is I think he's going to go much higher than we think. I think Alec Pierce will be like
he's a wide out 1, man. You got to take those guys and take your chances.
Yeah. I think, and I know Jason likes him a lot because I know he did well for Jason last year. So, and I know that's how fantasy is, man. Once you pick up a guy and he performs well for you, he's always like on your list. He's always a guy you look out for. All right, guys, my next one, and this one to me is kind of a deep sleeper because I don't really know what the role is going to be for him. But Keaton Mitchell, running back for the Chargers, his average ADP and PPR is 137. So you're talking about the 14th round.
Hey, Kyle, can I just say, everyone, Kyle's been talking about this guy since he's been drafted. He loves Keaton Mitchell.
Yeah, it's crazy, Sean. Since he was an undrafted free agent, I think Keaton Mitchell.
Yeah, that's right.
I think Keaton Mitchell in that offense, if used right, I think should be drafted much higher than the 14th round. I think that's probably about where he's going to be drafted, but I think whoever gets him in the 13th, 14th, 15th round, that's an absolute steal. I'm going to go over the numbers real quick here, guys. So he was an undrafted free agent from the Baltimore Ravens in 2023. The first 9 weeks of the season, he did not touch the ball. Did not touch the ball his rookie season in 2023. Over the following 6 weeks, guys, he totaled 47 carries for 396 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's an average of 8.4 yards per carry, and he averaged at least 6 yards per carry in 5 of those 6 games. So it's not like he had one game where he had 250 yards and the next game he had 4. Like he averaged at least 6 yards per carry in 5 of those 6 games. Obviously, significant ACL tear late in 2023 sidelined him for much of the 2024 season. But in 2025, he came back and he pretty much became the primary early down backup for Derrick Henry. And again, guys, that 2025, he only averaged 5 attempts per game, but he averaged 6 yards a carry again. I mean, this is a guy who's obviously, it's just undeniable. If you look at the statistics, he's explosive. That's what he is. That's exactly what he is.
explosive.
And this is a guy who runs a 4.37 40. So you'd expect it, right? If you can find him open space, he should be explosive. He signed with the Chargers this year. He's going to be the backup to Ryan Hampton and Kimani Vidal. He's probably going to be third string to start the season on the roster. But guys, there was a recent interview in Los Angeles, and basically Mike McDaniel came out and said, yes, I'm the one who brought Keaton Mitchell to this team. I wanted Keaton Mitchell on this team. And that bodes well for him and his fantasy usage. If you look at the three of them combined, the trio of Marion Hampton, Kimani Vidal, and Keaton Mitchell, he has the highest PFF grade by like 30 points. If you look at their PFF grades over last season, he had the highest by like a ton, head and shoulders much better than all of them. And another just interesting factoid that I'm going to give you when it comes to Keaton Mitchell, Devon Ajane, Keaton Mitchell, and Jaleel McLaughlin in Denver there are the only running backs in the NFL who are 5'8" or shorter and 200 pounds or lighter to log at least 300 snaps over the past 3 seasons. So you notice the first name on that list, guys? Devon Achane. Who was Mike McDaniel coaching over the last 5 years? Devon Achane. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a chance that Mike McDaniel is looking at Keaton Mitchell as maybe his new Devon Achane. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to phase Amari Hampton out of the offense because I think we all expect Amari Hampton to be really good, right?
And Kimani Vidal?
Yeah. And maybe I don't know how Mike McDaniel feels about Kimani Vidal. I personally like Vidal, and he was really good for me in fantasy points last year.
Really good for me too.
But I think if Keaton Mitchell can stay healthy, that's the key. If he can, and they start to integrate him into that offense a little bit more and more and more every week, 6 carries, 8 carries.
He's a great handcuff.
Dude, if you get to like week 5, 6 of the season, and this guy's getting 12 carries and he's still averaging that 6 to 8 yards per carry and those explosive plays where he's getting 40, 50-yard touchdowns, which obviously you guys know are bonuses in fantasy, how this guy would go in the 13th, 14th, 15th round to me is absolutely insane. And I assure you this, if I draft Omari Hampton in fantasy, I am drafting Keaton Mitchell, and it's going to be well before the 14th round because I think Keaton Mitchell could play a huge role in that Chargers offense. I think Mike McDaniel is like licking his chops at what he can do with Keaton Mitchell because he's one of the fastest guys in the NFL. And when he gets in open space, he's basically like a Devin Hester, Tyreek Hill type guy. That's what he is, man. He's just known for having absolutely massive, huge plays. That's why he averaged 8.5 yards per carry his rookie season. That's why.
Yeah, and that takes us back to another guy that we talked about earlier, Michelle Tootin. These speedsters, man. They break, they're gone.
And a guy that Jason mentioned earlier, Xavier Thomas, is a guy who could probably be on somebody's sleeper list because that's another guy who he only has 3 carries a game, but if it's for 78 yards and 2 touchdowns because he just takes off, then he has fantasy value for sure.
Yeah.
I like Mitchell a lot.
Thanks for spoiling my next pick, Kyle.
Sorry, I don't. But since Sean, you said, since I've been talking about him since the day he debuted for the Ravens, and I think if that guy could stay healthy, he could be a Darren Sproles type, special type.
Dynamite.
I think he could.
Yes, we're getting a little long in the tooth. We got I got 2 more for you here, and this is an interesting one for me, and I'm putting Jalen McMillan on my list here because someone has to
fill that role.
Yeah. And when you look at the right receiver, when you look at the depth chart here for Tampa Bay, you do have Chris Godwin Jr. coming back, guy who's often injured, most likely going to miss half the season as he continues to do. You still have Tez Johnson, who stepped up, Jay's boy from last year. They did draft Ted Hurst and put him into the fold, but rookie guys, these are rookies. You look at an ultra-productive 164 for 2,140 yards and 17 touchdowns, opposite one Rome Odunze in college. I think this is just a prime spot for him. And again, I'm not saying he's going to take over Tampa Bay's number 1. That's obviously Emeka Egbuka's job here in this offense for Tampa Bay. But you look at the one opportunity he had. He started it was either week 16 or week 17 against Miami when they plugged and played him when he came back from that neck injury. 9 targets, 7 catches for 114 yards. Those are good fantasy points. So what am I saying? I'm just saying there, I think McMillan, when Chris Godwin goes down, because we all know he will, has a little great breakout potential as the outside X receiver, great touchdown upside now that Evans has moved to San Francisco. I think at the beginning of the season, The volume may be a little inconsistent, but Jalen McMillan, I believe, has the talent and ability to get on the field and show Tampa that he belongs on the field. So right now I'm viewing him as a strong, late wide receiver 4 with wide receiver 2-3 upside, if that makes sense to everybody. You get him at a discount, not paying as high for Emeka Ibuka. And I think if he does get that opportunity, he has the opportunity to catch 65 to 75 balls somewhere in there, 850 to 1,000 receiving yards, and somewhere 6 to 8 touchdowns. Again, the biggest question is whether he becomes a consistent target earner, or he can just primarily inherit Mike Evans' downfield role, which is now vacated with Evans in San Francisco. I like Jalen McMillan. He was dynamite in college. I know his junior year, he was a little down off of his sophomore year where he was a 1,000-yard receiver. But this kid, I think, would have had more potential if he didn't have that neck injury last year. But when he came back, he started the last 4 games of the season, kind of like we were talking about with Jonathan Brooks. They brought him in and wanted to ramp him up and see what they had there. So I like Jalen McMillan. I love Baker Mayfield. This is a pass-first offense. Their backs get heavily involved in the pass game too, with Bucky and now Kenneth Gainwell, both good receiving backs out of the backfield. Prime spot, Jalen McMillan. Stash, wide receiver 4 for now with 2-3 upside. That's where I am with Jalen McMillan. What are your guys' thoughts on Jalen McMillan?
Sean, I think it's a smart pick because let's be honest, another trick in fantasy football is if you're going to take a shot on a guy, take a shot on a guy that's on a really, I don't want to say prolific because I don't know if that's a fair term. A high potency offense that's going to score a lot of points, move the ball up and down the field because, again, he's going to get a target share. And even if it's not there right now, it could be at some point in time, especially in football. Guys get hurt all the time. So if you got this guy that you drafted really, really late in the draft and he was the 3rd or 4th wide receiver, and all of a sudden, week 8 comes around and he's the number 2 guy on that team because of injuries, you've probably just got a steal. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily a league winner, but now all of a sudden your flex spots, your bye weeks, your little things that you always have trouble with, you've got a guy to plug and play in there. And you know what? If you're really lucky, maybe you're constantly trying to fit him into your team, but you just can't. Maybe he's a trade bait for you and you pick up somebody else that you need. So it's always good. And I'm going to get to in a second here. I think he's a good player depending on how they score your league. He could be a guy that, if he gets some return yards or anything like that, that could be something to, if your league scores that way. I think Johnny or Sean, are you in one where they have return yardage as a scoring thing? But
our Yahoo league, we have
Dude,
like Cameron DK on the whatever his name, Cameron DK Dyke, whatever his name is on the Titans last year was amazing for me because of punt and kick returns, dude.
Yeah. And so I think it's a great pick, Kyle. I don't know what you think about it.
The only thing I'll say about Tampa isn't excluding injuries. But Sean, if you're right, if Godwin gets injured, he's definitely you definitely just got.
And Godwin's probably going to get injured.
Outside of Ibuka, I think that receiving core is just going to be kind of boomer bust, but that's okay because you're gonna if he's a guy on your bench and you just need to plug and play for a bye weeks or an injury or something, play him like when he's playing shitty secondaries, and I think he can boom.
And that's kind of why I just said right now, wide receiver 4 for me with some 2-3 upside. Because how many years in a row has Chris Godwin got hurt in week 1 and missed 10 weeks? 2-3 years in a row.
So now all of a sudden you've got a guy that you were probably going to flex every week.
And I was going to say, don't forget Chris Godwin with all these injuries. I believe he's 31 years old, so he's a little bit older and longer.
It sucks for him because when Chris got early on, he's
really good.
Godwin was wide receiver number 1 in fantasy for
he's really good, man.
But that guy, it's at this point, guys, how many injuries he sustained? It's a part of who he is.
Yeah. Who you got, Jay? We got one more each.
One more each. All right. Well, then I'll nix the Viking Jordan Mason, and I'll go with kind of on the same topic here about league scoring. And I think he's probably going to go undrafted, but you might have some homers in there. I think he's probably a good last pick type of guy, and that's Xavier Thomas. Now, we talked about him a little bit earlier. Obviously, everybody knows he's a speed demon. What, he run like a 4.2, 840, which is ridiculous. But if you look at his numbers, they don't impress because I think they used him as a gadget player. And something about Ben Johnson just not really talking a whole lot about him makes me think that they're trying to keep him as a secret. I think he is going to be returning either punts or kickoffs, or maybe both. I think he's going to be used in the backfield. And if he can get in there, which a guy this fast, you got to put in the offense every once in a while, I think he could be a sleeper pick for you that winds up being that flex guy. And again, depending on your league, if he's getting return yards, rushing yards, I don't know if Kyle Monunga is going to repeat his rookie season, right? Maybe it was a fluke. We have a new offensive line, so maybe they do want somebody a little bit faster to get out on the edge. I was looking at his stats here. His catch rate isn't like the best in the universe, but let's see here. What does it say here? Oh yeah, his career catch rate is 61.2, but I think his lifetime or something like that is 67. So he actually has a fairly decent 67.2 lifetime. Or I'm sorry, just at LSU. He's got 11.4 yard career average per reception. He's also got almost 7 yards after the catch on average, which I think is due to that speed, right? If he jukes you, he's gone. And you better hope you got backside help because you're not catching him. And I think depending on how much the Bears intend to use him, he could be one of those gadgety players that you fill in like we were just talking about on a bye week. I don't know what the bye weeks are going to look like here, especially coming up. He could be a really good dynasty player if you're in a dynasty league to pick up and just stash. Look, I think he has upside. He's not going to be a number one wide receiver. He's on a team that's got, obviously a lot of shoes, right? A lot of people are hungry on that offense. So I don't know how many targets he's going to get, which goes against everything I said earlier. But I think the potential for him to actually have 1 or 2 really good weeks is there. And let's face it, he's a Bear. So, if you take him in the last pick of the draft, I don't think you're going to be unhappy with it.
I agree. I'm interested.
Yeah.
I'm personally very interested to see
I want to see him in the preseason.
How he's deployed and how he's used.
Yes.
Yeah.
If they start giving him the ball a lot in the backfield, he could easily be their number 3 back, guys. I'm just saying it's possible.
Well, and maybe their number 3 receiver and number 3 back. And if that's the case, then he certainly should have value enough to hold in fantasy. I think another one of those guys who's probably very boomer bust. I think there's going to be maybe games where he had 2 catches for 13 yards, and then there's going to be a game where he had 3 for 122 yards and 2 touchdowns because he took off. Kind of like Keaton Mitchell, same conversation. But yeah, I mean, you guys, when it comes to these rookies, and when you start to deal with injuries in the fantasy season, you expect these guys, the more the season goes on, they should be the freshest, the healthiest, because they're not really heavily involved in the offense to begin the season. The more these coaches gain trust in these rookies that we've been talking about, same as last year when you talk about guys like Luther Bird and Colson Loveland, you expect him to grow into a bigger role. He's a guy that you could, maybe even if you don't draft him, pick him up later on in the season, just kind of stash him, maybe a stash guy. But it's going to be interesting. A lot of targets vacated by DJ Moore, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with David Thomas.
Hey, and you know what? Most rookies, and it's something to consider too, rookies really often don't help you off early in the season, but if they hit, they always hit you and do you really good in the playoffs and in the fantasy bowl, especially if they start getting and taking over that number 1 role wherever their spot is. Yeah. Look at what happened to the Bears. Colston Loveland, Luther Burden. They had the first half was really not great for either one of those guys, right? It wasn't terrible, just wasn't great. The second half is you're like, oh my God, dude, that's amazing. So
yeah, you always have those 4 or 5 guys. Like Puka, this year you expect it to be like Omarion Hampton, obviously fantasy worthy, Puka fantasy worthy early on. This year you expect to be Carnell Tate, you expect Jadarian Price, Jeremiah Love, those type of guys. You expect them to get you some fantasy points early and often, but for the most part, man, the rest of the guys it's a wait game. It's a waiting game. That's what it is. The rest of these rookies is waiting. It just depends on when these teams feel like they need them. That's what. My last one, guys, is not a sleeper by any means necessary. Everybody knows who he is. This is just a guy who I think could absolutely be a league winner, and I think you can get him in like the 4th or 5th round, maybe even 5th or 6th round. And that's Michael Pittman on the Steelers. You mentioned earlier, obviously moved from Indianapolis to Pittsburgh. I like DK Metcalf, and I think he serves his purpose, but I don't think he's Aaron Rodgers type receiver. He's not that Devontae Adams type guy who can just accumulate a ton of targets and a ton of receptions and accumulate a bunch of yards, stay healthy all season. You look at Michael Pittman's career, he's been relatively healthy. He's 13 games played, 17, 16, 16, 16, 17. Guys, he had 3 seasons right in the middle there where he was basically the only target in Indianapolis. 88 receptions on 129 targets for 1,082 yards and 6 touchdowns. Next year, 99 receptions on 141 receptions for 925 yards, 4 touchdowns. Next year, 109 receptions on 156 targets for 1,152 yards and 4 touchdowns. I think Michael Pittman's, and this is going to sound crazy, I think he's going to get into that 120, 140 reception range with Aaron Rodgers, because you guys know how much Aaron Rodgers loves to pepper his favorite guy. It's not
when he gets a favorite guy, it's
done.
You need to pick up that guy.
That's his guy. Michael Pittman's a good route runner. He's good at getting open. Now, is he going to score 60, 70-yard touchdowns? Not a ton. No, probably not. But you talk about PPR leagues, a guy who just catches the ball constantly and is constantly being looked for by his quarterback. I think Michael Pittman's going to have games with 8, 9, 10, 11 catches, probably multiple games with 8, 9, 10, 11 catches. He gets you 70, 80, 90 yards and a touchdown or two. There's a very good chance Michael Pittman could end up being a fantasy wide receiver 1 by the end of the season in Pittsburgh with Aaron Rodgers there.
And with DK Metcalf on the other side, dude, he's not going to draw a lot of double teams. He's going to have single coverage.
And I think they complement each other well, right?
Yeah.
Like DK Metcalf will still take that bracket, but Michael Pittman will tear you up in slants and corners and comebacks and just the little stuff. He's a possession guy. Sean, you've talked about it a million times in the show. That's what Michael Pittman is. He's a guy who's like, he's not great after the catch, not spectacular, but Mr. Reliable for sure. You look for him on third down, open often, good route runner. I'm telling you guys, if you went running back heavy in the first 3 rounds of your draft, you were running back, quarterback, whatever you decide to do. So you go running back, Josh Allen. If most of those stud receivers are gone and Michael Pittman's still there in the 4th, I think he could fill a wide receiver 1 for you. I really think. I think you can fill that role.
Pittsburgh has secretly built a pretty damn good offense, guys. They're fantasy relevant again.
When you talk about it too, when you look at the quarterback situation there with Michael Pittman, you get Aaron Rodgers, a guy whose arm's probably not as good as it once was. Those little soft zones and a place where he's looking for a receiver to sit down on these short routes. That's what Michael Pittman
comebackers
come back. This honestly, Pittsburgh's like, we're gonna have another year, Aaron Rodgers. We'll sign Michael Pittman because Michael Pittman is the exact dude that Aaron Rodgers needs. You know, DK Metcalf is the guy who stretches the field. You know what I mean? He's gonna go run the boundary and take the safety with him. So
and they got a head coach now that knows exactly what that dude. I'm telling you.
I'm with you, Kyle. That's a great
good.
Guys, I'm glad you guys said that because it's something I really didn't think about. First of all, Sean, I think it was the perfect marriage. I think if you of all betting free agency, the perfect guy for Aaron Rodgers is Michael Pittman. And like you just said, Jason, I think that's what Mike McCarthy looked at him. I think he's like, I think that's our Devontae Adams. I think that's our guy who, maybe he has 9 catches and he only gets 70 yards. But in fantasy PPR, half-point PPR, 9 catches for 70 yards is a lot of points. I'm telling you.
I know how to build an offense for this guy, Aaron Rodgers.
Right, 100%.
Even if he gets a handful of touchdowns, 6, 7 touchdowns, nothing crazy, not 10, 11, 12. But even if he gets that, 6, 7 touchdowns, if he has 120 receptions like he's done in the past, you've seen it. I just give you the numbers. He's had those seasons. And
he could have one of those this year.
I think there's a
has
very good
receptions is fantasy relevant.
I would tell people who are running back heavy in the first few rounds, which a lot of people are, especially in Sean's Boobs League. That's just kind of how it goes. Running backs just fly off the board. If you haven't had a chance to go get your stud receiver, I would keep a very close watchful eye on Michael Pittman.
Yeah, and I would also bet, as we sit here right now, they both stay healthy. Michael Pittman outscores DK Metcalf.
No, that's not a question in my mind. If they both stay out, not even a question in my mind. Not even a question. I just think DK Metcalf's got a very particular skill set, and it's not. I
agree.
He's good at everything.
He's a matchup guy. When you see a small DB on DK Metcalf, you throw him the ball, and he's going to run.
Yeah, he's really good after the catch.
He's amazing after the catch. He's a powerful man.
But I don't think he's open nearly as much as Michael Pittman is.
Right.
Not nearly as much as Michael Pittman is.
My last guy here is Nate Singleton, and we've talked about him in the past. You got Tony Pollard aging. You got Tajay Spears, not a 3-down back. You have the new regime drafting this guy, bringing him in, looking for a fresh start. Now, I'm not saying draft this guy early, not even close. It's a new staff, new system. We talked about this, Jay. You talked about a little bit ago, changing of the systems. Things need to change. Singleton did have that foot injury in the pre-draft process, something that I guess I'm not too concerned about because you have plenty of time to heal up from that. He's a great stash. We've all seen what Tajay Spears can do on the field. We know he gets injured often, and he's not a 3-down back. Tony Pollard getting a little bit long in the tooth. I think there's a world.
Not very good to begin with.
And not very good to begin with. And what's one thing we know about Dable? Dable's a one running back guy. Dable brought this kid in, and I know it's not only the Barclays, but when it was Devin Singletary in Buffalo, Devin Singletary was the man. When it was Tyrone Tracy with him in New York, he was the man. I believe Dable, if the research is correct, is the guy who discovered Peyton Hillis and left Peyton Hillis
and Sean,
backfield.
A great point, because he loved Tyrone Tracy. We were like, Tyrone Tracy's gonna be amazing, and then he got Cam Scatterbo, and he's like, never mind, Tyrone Tracy.
Yeah,
there you
go. There you go. Dable's a one. So if Singleton, and again, I'm saying draft late stash, because I think this backfield's going to start off Pollard and Spears without a doubt, and Singletary will work, or Singleton will work his way in. And I think if he works his way in, I think he becomes the every down back, kind of like a Jonathan Brooks, like we talked about when we opened here. A guy come week 8, maybe you have an injury, and all of a sudden he's supplanting the older Tony Pollard, who, as Kyle and I both, and Jay probably too, agree, an okay running back. Not that great, nothing special.
Not to cut you off, I think from what I'm hearing, guys, and I've been hearing this for a couple of years now, and I'm still hearing it, I think Tony Pollard is still, they're like, he's available. If you want him, come get him. He's yours. I think they're trying to get out of that contract. I think he's going to be a trade chip for them. Yeah,
so, and if that happens, dude, Singleton, I don't know if he could be a league winner. He was really good at Penn State, but it's kind of like the Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt from last year. You know, he's not going to win you the league, but he's going to fill your flex spot and get you those points to help you beat your opponent. And that's what Singleton can be until he gets out there and you actually see what he is. But again, you're looking for opportunity. There's an opportunity, I believe, because Dable drafted this guy, and you, like Kyle just said, drafted Scatterbo and kicked Tyrone Chase to the curb. This could be a situation you see in Tennessee this year. And Cam Ward was electric down the stretch, and he's got weapons on the outside, so they're not going to be stacking the box against these running backs. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in Tennessee, but I have a feeling that Singleton is going to find his way into that backfield.
I'm telling you guys, Sean, not only do I agree with you, I think he could be a league winner. I think Dable brought him there for a reason. I don't think Dable's happy with the backfield there. I think that's why he brought him there. I think he is.
It's just a little flat. It's not flashy. It's not great.
Honestly, I think Tennessee's offense, like, some people are like, well, I like that player, but that's a lot of 3 and outs. I don't like that offense and all that. I think Tennessee's better than people think.
I think so too. They might be.
Keep an eye on them. I think Dustin picked them to win the division last year. I think it was a year early, but I'm not saying they're winning the division. But I think back in the day, you had Tennessee on your schedule. You're like, well, thank God that's a win. That ain't that shit anymore. It ain't like that anymore. They're not a guaranteed win anymore.
Yeah, it's very interesting, man. These let's see, it's the 15th, so a month. We're about 6 weeks away, Jay, I think, from our first draft. Mills League. It's going to either be
you guys always do your draft like 6 months before the season's.
Well, it's either going to be because of Jay and Chris's 50th birthday this year, we might be drafting a week earlier than normal, or we're going to be drafting right after their birthday party, which might not be good for any of us either.
Yeah, it's good for me.
I know. Worst draft ever.
But this is fun. I can't wait to do this again next week, man. We'll come up. I don't know what we're gonna do, but I'm doing right now is I'm building jobs at work, and I'm just sitting there with fantasy in the background, all these different shows, and it's just filling my brain with all this useless information.
Yeah, but sometimes you start second guessing yourself when you're listening to too many voices, man.
Well, the thing is like finding these Romeo Dobbs, finding this Jalen McMillan. These guys are the guys that are going to actually help you win your league if they do pan out during the season. And these are the guys that I need to know about, especially in a league in which I'm down picks, because when I get into the 4th, 5th, and 6th round, man, if I can hit there, I'm going to have a chance in the league. And if I don't, I'm probably going to be in the middle of the pack or not making the playoffs because I was down early picks. So it's really fun to have this exercise and get a bunch of names out there to put on your radar.
I'll draft to Michael Pittman.
What'd you say?
So
We're all
Sean's
going to
got-
draft each other's sleepers.
I was like, this guy wide receiver one potential. Nah, I'll take it.
I would
Guys,
start strategizing and just start naming really bad players. So you guys are like, maybe he knows something that I don't. And then during the draft, you reach for him, and everybody's like, what the hell is
You
going
know,
on?
I like in the 5th. Debo Samuel's going to sign with somebody. All
Hey,
right,
I got a quick question for you. With all the target share that's available in Washington,
Yeah.
if they do end up signing Stephon Diggs, would this be someone that at 32 years old, I know he's got some legal problems, but would this be someone that would jump onto your guys' radar
Sure.
No.
as a wide receiver 3?
Sure. Late as like a flex or like,
Not for me.
whatever.
You guys, I'm not gonna lie, and I like your guys' your sleepers, and I understand why you're using them, but I'm not. Me personally, that's a situation I avoid. I avoid that situation.
Stay away
I
from.
avoid
I was
Washington.
just curious. I heard it today that that with all this Brandon Ayuk crap that happened, that they've reached out and there might be something between Diggs and Washington. We'll see if it comes. To
I like what Jason said earlier. To me, is perfect because that's always been kind of one of my strategies. Like if you're on the fence about certain guys, like I'm on the fence about this guy and this team, and I'm on the fence about this guy and this team, and I'm on the fence about this guy and this team, and I'm on the fence about this guy and this team. I take the guy in the most high potent offense.
Yeah.
No.
And I just don't think Washington is going to be that. I don't. I just don't. And
No, I gotcha.
Sean, honestly, the guy I like the most, and Jason, I know, I'm not saying I don't like your Washington sleeper. Why am I drawing a blank on his name? But
Antonio Williams.
yeah, Tony Williams. I'm not saying I don't like him, but Chicky might become like the focal point of that offense. Man.
For sure. He's
Tight
probably the
ends
best
are-
wide receiver on there, to be honest.
Tight
with you. Well,
ends
Terry
are-
probably is if he's healthy, but he never is.
Tight ends are just taking over, man. And Tom, I know you've mentioned Ayuk's name a couple times. If he keeps doing the antics, the shit he's doing, I don't think he's going to play in the NFL ever again. I think
I
he
don't think
done
so
with it.
either.
He's a disgusting human being, dude.
Yeah,
absolutely
he's
disgusting
getting weirder by the post.
He is Antonio Brown. That's what he's terrible.
Yes,
He's
sure.
a terrible person. He's racist. He's a piece of shit, dude.
Yeah, he is.
All right, well, let's
wrap
everybody
this
get
up,
out of here.
guys. This
Yeah,
has
let's
been a
get out of
long
here.
one. We'll have to start fantasy a little bit earlier next week.
Yes.
Actually, I have a proposal for you about that, but we'll talk about it after the show. Thank you
Yes.
so much,
All right,
everybody.
thanks,
Love you
everybody.
guys.
Peace
out.
Appreciate you guys.
Peace out.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Bear the fuck down.